Chapter 1232. In an instant, it was as if he couldn't move. It was the purest aura of a martial artist, without any star techniques or mysteries. The middle-aged man removed the scabbard, but he didn't pull out the long spear. Instead, he pointed it at Lin Feng with one hand. Just like that, the sharp spear intent couldn't be stopped, and the surrounding space seemed to be completely shrouded. Lin Feng was only left with the huge scabbard in front of him. His heart was pounding. He didn't feel any killing intent, but his battle intent was boiling. Take the spear. The voice was calm, but it was irresistible. Lin Feng stared at the middle-aged man and vaguely understood. At this moment, there was no need for any words or questions. He just had to do it. Clang! The amethyst spear was unsheathed. There was a violent vibration. The spear had a spirit. As if feeling the strong spear intent, Lin Feng held the amethyst spear tightly. For the first time, he deeply felt the texture of the spear in his hand. It was the simplicity of returning to the origin. Yes, no matter how strong the spear move was, it was still the same. It was just a spear thrust with one's hand and one's own body. Somehow, his heart felt so peaceful. Even under the pressure of such a strong spear intent, the amethyst spear in his hand was independent and not disturbed at all. Oh! The middle-aged man's eyes lit up, seeming to be rather surprised. Facing Lin Feng, he held his spear and stood with his eyes closed. He didn't attack and just stood there quietly. One man and one spear, two men and two spears, forming a unique landscape in this rocky land. The space felt suffocating, as if no existence could get close. Time passed quietly. Lin Feng seemed to have entered a state of complete self-awareness, isolated from the outside world. Holding the amethyst spear in his hand, he didn't need to control it too deliberately, nor did he need any complicated skills. He just needed to communicate with his heart and instinctively feel with his body. The soul of the spear seemed to be compatible with the soul of the person, maintaining a horizontal line. It was profound, but also very simple. It seemed to be a mystery, but it also seemed to be easy to grasp without any power. Quietly, there was no other existence in this world. Only himself and the amethyst spear were left. Time seemed to pass extremely slowly, as if he was in a dream. Even his thoughts became extremely hazy. There seemed to be a blurry shadow in front of him, quietly blooming under the gathering of the white light. It became brighter and brighter, and Lin Feng instantly seemed to widen his eyes. That is, Lin Feng was shocked. Oh, right. Wasn't he just whoosh? Lin Feng's mind suddenly cleared, and he came back to his senses. He opened his eyes forcefully, and his thoughts returned to him. The sound of the amethyst spear clanging resounded like the sound of an empty valley. A bright light slowly appeared in front of him. His body, which had just regained its senses, was inexplicably unable to move again. A powerful aura completely suppressed him at this moment. Like a cloud of smoke, it descended like a thunderbolt. Bang! A loud sound rang out in his mind, and all the distracting thoughts were eliminated. At this moment, there were no more sounds or sights. It was as if he had entered a world of guns. In the sky, many fragments of white fog scattered and gradually gathered into a cloud. Very white, pure white and flawless, just like the spot of light in front of him. It was as if the gathering of the white fog was like the birth of the cloud. All the surrounding aura gathered at this point. The power, the force, the aura, all transformed into a clean and neat spear and transformed into that piece of white cloud that appeared faintly. This spear was not fast, and it could not be said to be swift, violent, or thunderous. It was just a simple spear, but it was as if the white cloud fell and the sky blossomed with indigo blue light. However, the feeling it gave him was stronger than any other spear technique. It was as if countless spear techniques had merged into one, as if simplicity had been displayed to the extreme. The appearance of a spear was not sloppy, and one spear was another spear straightforward. It was as if the clouds and fog had dispersed, and dawn had broken. This spear is called Rising Clouds. A faint voice resounded in his ears, like the sound of a bell ringing in his heart. Lin Feng instantly opened his eyes. Everything around him was like a dream and disappeared without a trace. At this moment, he was still standing on that group of rocks. The sky was still the same sky, and the ground was still the same ground. There was not the slightest change, but there was one less person. It was the middle-aged man who was holding the spear. He had already disappeared without a trace. Just like this spear technique, the clouds and fog dispersed, and the person disappeared without a trace. Is he teaching me? Lin Feng stared at his hands in a daze, and felt that it was inconceivable. Even if it was only for a moment, he felt as if he had grown a lot. It was not that his spear technique had improved rapidly, but it was his understanding of the spear, his comprehension of the concept of the spear, and his new understanding of the future of the spear. The dense fog in front of him was just like this spear falling. The clouds and fog dispersed. Lin Feng glanced at the time indicated on the compass, and his expression changed. It's already been 7 days? With his eyes wide open, Lin Feng felt even more shocked. He felt as if only a moment had passed. But it had already been 7 days? Oh, right. I seemed to have an epiphany earlier. Lin Feng suddenly remembered, and his eyes glowed. He was completely immersed in the world of the spear technique, and it seemed that the middle-aged man woke him up and then taught him that spear technique. After that, he disappeared without a trace. He is indeed very strange. Lin Feng shook his head with a bitter smile. He had always felt that the middle-aged man was strange. Now, this feeling was even stronger. Mother is right. In this Douling world, there are many hidden experts who do not care about worldly affairs, and they wholeheartedly want to break through the Xian realm and become a starry sky expert. I think he is one of them, right? Lin Feng's eyes were slightly dazzled. If he still did not know the strength of the middle-aged man, he would be too stupid. Although he did not know the middle-aged man's identity, his strength was definitely on the same level as his mother, far surpassing the holy lord of the human demon. In front of the middle-aged man, he could not resist at all. If the middle-aged man wanted to kill him, he would have died many times over. But who exactly is he? Is he an ancient race expert or a hidden human expert? But is there such a strong human martial artist? The strangest thing is, why is he teaching me? Confused, Lin Feng looked into the distance, and his heart was filled with curiosity. Water Curtain Cave. Whoosh! A figure suddenly appeared. If Lin Feng saw him, he would definitely recognize him. It was the middle-aged man with the giant spear sheath. What was he doing here? Whoosh! Whoosh! Although he seemed to be walking slowly, it was as if he was teleporting. What was even stranger was that he was walking in this unfamiliar water curtain cave, as if it was flat ground, as if it was not his first time here. In front of the mist, Shui Yumei was standing gracefully. Holy Lord, this way please. After opening the passage, Shui Yumei had a respectful expression. Holy Lord? The person who came was one of the 12 holy lords of the human race, the mysterious Holy Lord Cloud Spear. How is it? The heavenly secret Holy Lord smiled kindly. Not bad. Holy Lord Cloud Spear was a man of few words. Oh, the heavenly secret Holy Lord was slightly surprised. Your spear's sense is excellent, but your talent. After hesitating for a while, Holy Lord Cloud Spear's gaze landed on the heavenly secret Holy Lord and said in a low voice, I have returned the 3 conditions I owed you. From now on, we are even. Farewell. See you never again. After speaking, he turned around and left. Cloud Spear, are you willing to live a mediocre life with your cultivation? The heavenly secret Holy Lord's eyes sparkled. Without stopping, Holy Lord Cloud Spear's dim eyes flashed. There's no need to persuade me. The survival of the human race has nothing to do with me. But she, the heavenly secret Holy Lord, wanted to persuade him again, but a terrifying aura suddenly exploded in front of him. Holy Lord Cloud Spear had already stopped, but he did not turn around. However, the huge spear scabbard shook violently, releasing surging spear intent. All right, I won't persuade you. The heavenly secret Holy Lord tactfully shut his mouth, but he knew Holy Lord Cloud Spear's temperament. The trembling spear scabbard stopped, and Holy Lord Cloud Spear's uncontrollable aura slowly dissipated. He then stepped forward and walked out. "All right, I forgot to tell you." The heavenly secret Holy Lord smiled and said, "The Lin Feng you saw wasn't all. He has a clone with great talent who cultivates the battle god Tao." The heavenly secret Holy Lord looked at Holy Lord Cloud Spear and saw him slowing down. However, he did not stop and entered the whirlpool, disappearing in an instant. The heavenly secret Holy Lord's lips curled up as he squinted his eyes. "What a pity. Such a good feeling. I can't waste any more time. I have to end the battle as soon as possible." Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. His intuition told him that the spear wasn't suitable for his main body, but it was suitable for his clone. However, at this moment, all his comprehension was on his main body. Furthermore, only his special eyes could remember that spear. When he closed his eyes, he could still feel the wonderful feeling in his body. Cultivating at this moment was definitely the best result. However, he had to participate in the final battle of the Emperor Throne competition. What a pity. This feeling of cultivation could only be used once. If he lost it, he might not be able to find it again. Just like gaining enlightenment, it depended on luck and timing. Sometimes it would come as he wished. "Hurry, I have to end it quickly so that I can cultivate." Lin Feng pursed his lips tightly, his heart burning with impatience. His strongest attribute might be his flames, but what he liked the most since he was young, it was the spear. On the challenge stage, at this moment, it was already packed with people. There were many times more people than when he fought the human demon Sacred Lord. Almost all the saints in the southern region had gathered to participate in this grand event. This was because this time it would determine the future ruler of the southern region. No one wanted to miss it. This was the true Emperor Throne competition. Apart from Lin Feng, the other 6 saints had already arrived. King Yin, King Lu, and King Zhu, the 3 kings of the 9 states, led Emperor Yao's faction. The other 3 saints were all unaffiliated saints. This included the hermit expert Huang Ji. He had also been present during the human demon Sacred Lord's battle and had personally witnessed Lin Feng's shocking battle. There was also Palace Master Zhu Yan, who led the Orange Moon Palace and was quite powerful. There was also the great bandit Cuckoo, who had appeared out of nowhere 100 years ago. The top 6 were all here. Only Lin Feng was left. Chapter 1233. I heard that Lin Feng is very ferocious. That goes without saying. I saw it with my own eyes. Even someone as strong as the human demon Holy Lord was defeated by him. Is that true? The legendary 13th Holy Lord? That's an expert from the ancient era. The surrounding area was filled with heated discussions. It was extremely lively. The human demon Holy Lord was very famous in the circle of saints. Although it was not often mentioned, everyone knew about the existence of the 13th Holy Lord. Now, Lin Feng had defeated the human demon Holy Lord in front of so many people. Naturally, it would attract attention, especially since he was one of the 7 successors to the throne. I don't know if it's true or not. Palace Master Zhu Yan's face was full of arrogance. Time had not left many traces on her body. As strong as Palace Master Zhu Yan was, she had long been able to maintain her skin's liveliness and beauty. Palace Master Zhu Yan controlled the Orange Moon Palace alone, and her influence spread across the entire Yueru County. She had always been a person above others and did not need to pretend to be nice to anyone. Of course it's true. King Yin glanced at her and said directly. He was a straightforward person. If he liked someone, he would say anything. Naturally, he would not be stingy with his praise for Lin Feng. King Lu and King Zhu did not express their opinions. Huang Zhu smiled but did not say anything. As for the other popular candidate, Cuckoo, he was expressionless. Who saw the entire battle? Palace Master Zhu Yan raised her eyebrows. Did you see the human demon Holy Lord being defeated? King Yin frowned slightly. Indeed, he did not see the entire battle. Just as Palace Master Zhu Yan said, he did not see the human demon Holy Lord being defeated. However, if he wasn't defeated, why would he run away without a fight? King Yin said with a burning voice. How would I know? Palace Master Zhu Yin shrugged. Maybe this Lin Feng and the human demon Holy Lord are in cahoots. Maybe it's all part of the human demon Holy Lord's scheme? Palace Master Zhu Yin raised her head and swept her beautiful eyes across the crowd. Do you think it's possible for a saint-level expert to defeat a saint-level expert? The crowd did not speak. They pondered Palace Master Zhu Yan's words. Indeed, it was not without reason. In my opinion, this Lin Feng is most likely the human demon Holy Lord's disciple. Palace Master Zhu Yan's gaze was sharp, and the corners of her mouth curled up coldly. The human demon Holy Master knew that it would be difficult for him to convince the masses if he took the position of master of the southern region. Therefore, he pushed Lin Feng onto the stage and even used his own name to help Lin Feng. It was a very clever move. Palace Master Zhu Yan's words caused an uproar. That makes sense. That's right. I've never heard of a saint defeating a saint king, and the human demon's holy lord is only a mid-level saint king. The difference between their levels is too great. That seems to be the case. In the end, I didn't see the human demon holy lord suffer any injuries. Then, he mysteriously disappeared under Lin Feng's attacks. If that's the case, the two of them might really have colluded to set up this trap. We've all been deceived. I think it must be. Palace Master Zhu Yin has a discerning eye for gold. There was a huge uproar. Even King Zhu and the others were silent. Everyone looked at Emperor Shun, wanting to know what he thought. With a faint smile, Emperor Shun did not refute or confirm. He only said softly, whether it's true or not, we'll know in a while. Everyone nodded when they heard that. Indeed, there was no need to argue here. Whether Lin Feng was truly talented or just bluffing, they would soon find out. Humph, Palace Master Zhu Yin said proudly. I'm afraid there's no time. Palace Master Zhu Yin looked at Emperor Shun. If Lin Feng still hasn't arrived by the time is up, what will happen? Emperor Shun's eyes flashed. With my status, any decision will be unfair. If Lin Feng really can't make it in time, the 6 of you plus me will make the decision with 7 votes. Palace Master Zhu Yan's eyes flashed as she nodded. Clearly, she was very satisfied with this answer. The other 5 were slightly startled. Light flashed in their eyes as they each had their own thoughts. They looked at the compass. There wasn't much time left. Could Lin Feng really make in time? 30 seconds left. Palace Master Zhu Yin smiled faintly. King Yin frowned slightly. He looked around anxiously, but there was no trace of him. Those who should have come had come long ago. That little bit of time did not matter. Those who could not make it naturally would not make it. At this moment, the surrounding saints were also very curious. They looked around from time to time, but there was no trace of him. Everyone was discussing spiritedly. They did not know what had happened to Lin Feng. Even Emperor Shun's eyes flashed slightly, but he did not say anything. At this moment, he was still Emperor Shun, the judge of the throne competition. Even if he knew that Lin Feng could be the future human emperor and had sufficient strength, but he would not be biased. 10 seconds. Palace Master Zhu Yin smiled meaningfully. The other 5 successors were expressionless, but their flashing eyes showed that they were thinking about something. King Lu, King Zhu Huang Lu. They had all seen Lin Feng's strength with their own eyes. They knew that if Lin Feng participated in the competition, they were destined to be accompanying. However, if Lin Feng was absent and disqualified, what would happen? 5. Palace Master Zhu Yin said softly. Her voice was charming and magnetic, but it was especially harsh. 4. 3. Palace Master Zhu Yin smiled and paused. She could not sense any aura approaching. Lin Feng was already too late. 0. The last word came out from her sexy lips and fell into the depths of everyone's hearts. The 5 people's expressions changed at this moment. There was also a commotion around them. He really didn't come. What happened to Lin Feng? I don't know. Is he disqualified? It was a mess. Lin Feng was undoubtedly the focus of all the attention in the competition. His absence was a huge blow to the final battle. It was a huge blow, and the battle for the Emperor's throne seemed to have changed in an instant. Everyone looked at each other, and then their gazes fell on Emperor Shun. According to the procedure, we should draw lots now. Emperor Shun said softly. Everyone nodded in agreement. Emperor Shun did not say how to deal with Lin Feng, but Palace Master Zhu Yin did not want to. Before we draw lots, should we first decide on something? Palace Master Zhu Yin looked at everyone and raised her head proudly like a peacock. Her magnetic voice covered the entire place, attracting everyone's attention. Emperor Shun's eyes flashed, and the other 5 had their own thoughts. The scene seemed to freeze for a moment. But in an instant, whoosh! Like a shooting star, a majestic aura came from afar at an extremely fast speed. Everyone looked up. Palace Master Zhu Yan's beautiful eyes flashed with surprise. Then a deep light flashed, and a gloomy coldness flashed. Such speed, such a powerful aura, instantly caused a series of exclamations. Everyone opened their eyes wide. "Ha!" Lin Feng landed from the sky and stepped lightly on the ground. "Sorry for being late." Lin Feng smiled slightly and looked around. He was quite apologetic. However, there was absolute silence. No one dared to speak. This atmosphere seemed to have a faint, silent pressure. Lin Feng made a sound of surprise. He glanced at the time indicated on the compass and knew that he was late. "Do you think that in sorry can be settled?" Palace Master Zhu Yin suddenly spoke. In fact, if she did not speak, no one else would speak. Palace Master Zhu Yan's beautiful eyes swept across the other 5 people. She felt indignant, but she seemed to have been forced to stand out. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He smiled and said, "We haven't drawn lots yet, right? That's a different matter." Palace Master Zhu Yin raised her head and said proudly, "Being late is being late. If you don't even have the basic concept of time, how can you be the lord of the southern region?" Looking at the overall situation from the details clearly shows that you don't care about the competition at all. You don't have any sense of responsibility for the southern region. His voice was sonorous and resonant, causing a heated discussion in the surroundings. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He also felt that this was troublesome. This luxurious woman in front of him was overbearing and eloquent. She was not easy to deal with. It was a small matter, but after she said it, it became bigger and bigger. This seemed to be her goal. She was quite hostile towards him. "Then what do you want?" Lin Feng said slowly. His eyes were clear, but he was not in a hurry. Palace Master Zhu Yan's mouth curved. She glanced at the other 5 people and finally at Emperor Shun. "I wonder if Emperor Shun's words still count." Emperor Shun nodded slightly. "Of course." "Good." Palace Master Zhu Yan seemed to be afraid that Emperor Shun would go back on his words. "In that case, let's start the voting." Looking at Lin Feng, Palace Master Zhu Yan revealed a confident smile. "Each person has 1 vote. There are 7 votes in total. No one can abstain. The minority obeys the majority. I move Lin Feng is disqualified." Palace Master Zhu Yan's beautiful eyes shone brightly. Whoosh! The crowd immediately became rowdy. It was very lively. Who would have thought that before the competition for the throne had even begun, there would already be such a huge battle to watch? This was completely unexpected. Oh, Lin Feng was also quite surprised. He glanced at the crowd. He did not expect things to turn out like this. Voting on him? Lin Feng laughed hoarsely. He hadn't even become the ruler of the southern region, but he was already being tested. According to Emperor Shun, even if he became the lord of the southern region in the future, the 7 of them, including Emperor Shun, would form a new power structure in the southern region. They would not only assist him, but also restrict him to some extent. Now, he was testing his strength. "I object." King Yin was the first to shout. His eyes were shining and his voice was very firm. His declaration caused another uproar among the crowd. He was completely at odds with Palace Master Zhu Yan. His imposing manner was supporting Lin Feng to the end. "King Yin," Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He already had a plan in mind. Actually, excluding other factors at this critical moment, the attitude of these 6 people towards him seemed to be quite good. Furthermore, he would also be able to understand everyone's personalities and other factors. Speaking of which, it was not a bad idea. 1 vote against 1 vote. Palace Master Zhu Yan's beautiful eyes darkened. Although she was unhappy, she did not say anything, because she was very confident. "I agree." Chapter 1234. The second person to express his opinion had appeared. Everyone's attention was focused on the source of the noise. Lin Feng looked towards the source of the noise and saw King Ju raise his hand expressionlessly. Although he expressed his opinion, he did not look at Lin Feng. Instead, he chose to avoid eye contact. Was he guilty or afraid? 2 votes in favor of disqualifying Lin Feng. King Yin frowned and looked at King Ju with displeasure. To a certain extent, he had a good relationship with King Ju. He did not expect King Ju to attack him at this moment. 4th senior brother Yu. King Yin was furious. However, an arm reached out and interrupted him. Emperor Shun's face was as calm as a lake. He said softly, "Don't instill your own thoughts into others. Respect 4th junior brother's choice." King Ju. Neutral. Lin Feng muttered softly. Among Emperor Yao's disciples, other than eldest senior brother Shun, 2nd senior brother King Lu was the strongest. After him were King Yin and King Ju. In fact, King Yin was close to eldest senior brother Shun and always followed Shun's lead. Although King Ju seemed to be on Shun's side, he was actually a very arrogant person. He had his own thoughts and beliefs and was not willing to submit to others. Such a choice is also within common sense. Lin Feng was very clear. If he was disqualified, King Ju would have a higher chance of becoming the lord of the southern region. Obviously, he was very confident and had a trump card in his hand. The atmosphere became more and more serious. With 2 votes against 1, Palace Master Juyan's side had the upper hand. At this moment, King Lu, Huang Lu, and Cuckoo were still thinking. King Lu's expression kept changing and his emotions were extremely complicated. He was probably the most conflicted person at this moment. This was because other than Lin Feng, he believed that his strength was not inferior to anyone present, even Shun. However, he was also aware of Lin Feng's strength. It was not easy for him to build a good relationship with Lin Feng. If he voted in favor now, it would mean that all his previous efforts would be in vain. In the future, if Lin Feng were to become the ruler of the southern region, things would become very troublesome. He was hesitating. King Lu's expression changed. To bet or not to bet? I object. A 4th voice rang out. Just as King Lu was hesitating, the second no vote appeared. King Ju turned his head with a cold expression, while Palace Master Ju Yan's frown deepened. Both of them looked surprised. They did not expect Huang Lu to vote against the proposal. Even King Lu was shocked. Lin Feng looked at the smiling long-haired man and nodded at him. Lin Feng also smiled and nodded at him. A show of goodwill. Although he did not know this long-haired man, he could sense his aura. Among them, he was the weakest. He was merely a high-level saint. Even the noblewoman was trying her best to conceal her aura, but he could still sense that she was at the peak of the saint realm. Everyone else was the same. Only this long-haired man was a high-level saint. Very smart. Lin Feng smiled in his mind. He clearly knew that even if he lost his qualification, it would not be his turn to become the ruler of the southern region. Rather than that, why not fulfill his wish and let Lin Feng owe him a favor? In the future, if Lin Feng really became the ruler of the southern region, even if he would not take special care of him, at least he would not be against him. With Huang Lu's vote, the situation was tied again. 2-2. The surrounding saints held their breaths and widened their eyes. Every vote that followed was very important. Only King Lu, Cuckoo, and Emperor Shun were left. Emperor Shun's calm expression showed that he had already made his decision. In fact, whether it was Lin Feng, Palace Master Juyan, or King Yin knew that Emperor Shun would definitely vote against the proposal to protect Lin Feng. In other words, the score was 3-2, and the no votes were in the lead. King Yin clenched his fists, his eyes burning. Because of Huang Lu's vote, King Lu's expression turned even uglier. Palace Master Juyan's palms were also sweating. She did not expect Huang Lu to vote against the proposal. But sometimes the world was so strange. You thought he would vote for the proposal, but he did not. The human heart was always unpredictable. Yes or no? For King Lu, it was either heaven or hell at this moment. Clenching his fists, he had already walked to the edge of the cliff. He glanced at Cuckoo and saw the light in Cuckoo's eyes. He seemed to be hesitating too. King Lu's eyes widened. Yes, he's the same as me. We are both hesitating and waiting for each other to make a decision. If I vote against the proposal, he will vote against it too. He will not offend Lin Feng. Actually, he wants to vote for the proposal. Otherwise, if he votes against the proposal, together with Emperor Shun's vote, the result will be out. King Lu was instantly enlightened and understood everything. As if a clear stream flowed through his body, the cold sweat on King Lu's forehead disappeared. He was completely awake. He had to make a decision immediately. Otherwise, by the time Cuckoo made his decision, it would be too late. I agree. King Lu's voice was very low. He did not raise his head, as if he was afraid of meeting Lin Feng's gaze. The crowd burst into an uproar, but the current situation had changed back to the yes vote. Palace Master Zhu Yin revealed an expression of victory, and King Zhu's cold expression eased slightly. Huang Lu still looked the same, as if he did not care about the result. King Yin was much more restrained after Emperor Shun's persuasion. He only gritted his teeth. In fact, he had also guessed that King Lu would vote for the proposal. Of course, this was also within Lin Feng's expectations. People are greedy after all. As long as there is a chance, who would not want to take the risk? Lin Feng chuckled. He did not blame King Lu and King Lu. No matter how much King Lu tried to please him, he would still put himself first at the crucial moment. Every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. Both of them were actually very ambitious. The only difference was that King Lu's behavior was more obvious and more flexible. King Lu knew how to curry favor with those in power. He acted according to the overall situation. This kind of person would usually choose the direction that was most beneficial to him. He did this to please him before, and it was the same now. If he became the lord of the southern region in the end, he would definitely flatter him and try his best to make up for the bad effects of what happened today. This kind of person had a special nickname, which was Fence-Sitter. 3-2. The yes vote was an elite again. Just one more vote, and the yes vote would reach 4 votes and eliminate Lin Feng. The hall was silent. At this moment, it was time to reveal the dice cup. The result of the bet was about to be decided. Including Emperor Shun's no vote, the result was a tie of 3-3. The key was that the final result depended on one person. Cuckoo. This great bandit who appeared out of nowhere 100 years ago was both good and evil. He acted like an eagle and was very self-centered. Palace Master Zhu Yin smiled confidently. In her expectation, the great bandit Cuckoo would put himself first. The probability of him voting yes was above 99%. King Lu and King Zhu focused their eyes and pursed their lips. They had already thrown caution to the wind. They both wanted to fight for the position of the lord of the southern region. Therefore, the first thing to do was to eliminate Lin Feng. Yes, yes, yes. In their hearts, there was nothing else but these 2 words. They were waiting for Cuckoo's final decision. King Yan's expression was extremely ugly. He knew a lot about Cuckoo. According to his character, he would definitely vote yes. In the hall, only Lin Feng and Emperor Shun remained calm and waited for the final result. All eyes were focused on one person. At this moment, Cuckoo also raised his head. His eagle-like eyes looked straight at Lin Feng. The light in his eyes was bright, and he did not avoid the question at all. I object. These 3 simple words made everyone dumbfounded. They did not expect this at all. He objected? King Lu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. What the hell? In the hall, there was an uproar. Everyone was in an uproar. It was only a single vote of no, but it crushed all the voices of discord. Palace Master Zhu Yan's face was ghastly pale. King Lu and King Zhu were completely stunned. Cuckoo's vote of objection was too crucial. His vote of objection overturned the entire situation and overturned all their previous efforts. One vote of no, and the entire situation was reversed. Lin Feng snorted softly, feeling rather surprised. He did not know this eagle-like man in front of him. His cold eyes showed that he was not on good terms with him. He was also not someone like King Lu who was trying to curry favor with him. Most importantly, his strength was one of the best among the crowd. If he was eliminated, it would be more advantageous for him. But why did he want to protect him? Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He could not figure it out. In fact, there was a question in everyone's mind. They did not understand why Cuckoo would vote no. According to Palace Master Zhu Yin, that was the only 1% chance. Yet it happened. People's hearts were hard to fathom. But the truth was the truth. Coming from Baian's mouth, he obviously didn't want to change it. After voting, he still had that cold look on his face. It was as if he did not care about anyone. This was the great thief Cuckoo who rose to fame 100 years ago. He was extremely egotistical. Now the yes and no votes were tied again. 3-3. However, Palace Master Zhu, King Lu, and King Zhu all knew that they had lost. The motion would end with a score of 3-4. They were only waiting for Emperor Shun to vote no. Then, all their efforts would be in vain. They would have no choice but to accept Lin Feng's participation in the competition. At this moment, there was no more chance. King Yan's face broke into a smile. Lin Feng also smiled. It seemed that everything would come to a perfect end just like that. Of course, there were many things that no one could have predicted. Just like how no one could have guessed that Cuckoo would vote no, no one could have guessed that Emperor Shun, who had been protecting Lin Feng, he would cast the most unbelievable vote. I agree, Emperor Shun said softly. Everyone stood rooted to the ground, completely dumbfounded. Chapter 1235. There was complete silence. In the field, only Emperor Shun's voice was still echoing. Everyone was stunned. Even Lin Feng was slightly startled. His eyes fell on the Shun Emperor's face, and when their eyes met, Lin Feng did not see any complicated emotions in the Shun Emperor's clear eyes. That smiling face seemed to exude a different kind of meaning, and Lin Feng instantly understood. At this moment, Palace Master Zhu Yin covered her mouth and laughed proudly. Although she did not know why the Shun Emperor would vote in favor of this, the result was unquestionable. 4-3. Yes, votes victory. This meant that her motion was approved. She had successfully kicked Lin Feng out of the game. At this moment, King Lu smiled as if he had just survived a disaster. King Zhu's expression did not change, but his eyes shone brightly. It was obvious that he was excited. On the other hand, King Yan's face was red. He stared at Shun with bulging eyes. He did not understand at all. The one who wanted to protect Lin Feng was Shun. The one who pushed Lin Feng into the abyss was Shun. What was going on? Clenching his teeth, King Yin suppressed his impulsive emotions. He was very clear about his big brother's personality. Shun would always think carefully before doing anything, and he would never make any mistakes. His personality was very similar to Emperor Yao's. He would seek victory in stability, and he would never take any risks. If he were to sit on the throne, he would definitely be an emperor in a golden age. But why is that? At this moment, Huang Lu and Cuckoo were very calm. It seemed that the result was not that important to them. When the result was announced, the crowd was in an uproar. 4-3. Lin Feng is out. In other words, Lin Feng is not qualified to participate in the final battle? Didn't they say that Lin Feng was in cahoots with the Holy Lord of the Human Demon? It's better that he is eliminated. That's right. Instead of letting such a young warrior of unknown origin become the Lord of the Southern region, it is better to let respected experts like King Yin and King Lu be emperors. I would vote for it too. A heated discussion broke out. When Lin Feng heard this, he understood everything that Shun had done. This was a test for him. Similarly, from the neutral standpoint of Emperor Shun, there was nothing wrong with voting for him. Most importantly, listening to the reactions of the people around him, he could tell that they did not trust him. There were too many people who were taking pleasure in his misfortune and doubting him. Even if he could enter the final battle, he would not be able to change their minds. On the other hand, if he were to release all his negative emotions now, it would be tantamount to putting all the problems on the table. This included the situation that she might face if she were to become the empress in the future. This was a chance for a simulation. Are you trying to tell me that I can't trust anyone? Lin Feng smiled faintly. At this moment, there was an uproar. The heated discussion was accompanied by Palace Master Zhu Yan's complacent smile. Everything seemed to have turned against him. However, He was no longer the ignorant brat of the past. He was fully capable of handling such a situation, and he was qualified to do so. Moreover, there was more than one method. My apologies. Rules are rules. They can't be changed. Palace Master Zhu Yin was like a proud peacock. She spoke coldly to Lin Feng. The faint magnetic voice was exceptionally ear-piercing. Who asked him to be late? That's right. There are rules in the competition. Accept your loss. Accept the result of the motion, brat. There was a group of supporters behind Palace Master Zhu Yin. Many of them were saints who admired her greatly, and some of them were members of the Orange Moon Palace. Even in the entire southern region, the Orange Moon Palace was quite powerful. There were as many as 4 saints in the Orange Moon Palace, and this did not include Palace Master Orange Yin herself, for it was already a lot. It should be known that saints usually came and went alone. They either lived in seclusion or cultivated in seclusion. They did not care about worldly affairs. All the voices seemed to be against Lin Feng. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Feng, including King Yin and Emperor Shun. They were still smiling faintly, as if they were watching a good show. They were waiting to see how Lin Feng would handle it. If he could not even handle such a small problem, how could he lead the entire southern region? Lin Feng smiled faintly. His eyes shone brightly as he looked directly at Palace Master Zhu Yin. That sharp soul aura caused Palace Master Zhu Yin's expression to change slightly. Her voice inexplicably sharpened. What do you want to do? Her aura weakened slightly. The 2 saints of the Orange Moon Palace behind the Palace Master of the Orange Moon Palace also looked as if they were facing a great enemy. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. The surrounding saints all opened their mouths wide as they looked at the situation in front of them in horror. What was going on? Could it be that Lin Feng dared to directly attack in front of so many people? This was too disrespectful. There were more than 200 saints here, and Emperor Shun was also present. If Lin Feng dared to attack, it was undoubtedly provoking the entire southern region. He dared to do so? It's actually very simple. Lin Feng finally opened his mouth. There was a faint smile on his face, but the words he said shocked everyone in the area. If you die, wouldn't the pros and cons be even? Lin Feng's voice was soft, but it made a sound. His eyes were burning. Almost instantly, a devouring fire appeared in his right hand. I almost forgot. You were the one who proposed the motion. If you die, the motion will be nullified. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Emperor Shun's eyes lit up with surprise. At this moment, Palace Master Zhu Yan's face was already green and white. Her delicate body trembled slightly. Yu. Her voice was stuttering. Now that she was face to face with Lin Feng, she could feel that terrifying aura. It was so powerful. Even though there were more than 200 saints around her, Palace Master Zhu Yan only felt cold all over. There was not a single helper around her. She was completely alone and helpless. Step, step, step. Lin Feng's pace was not fast, but it was very steady. He approached Palace Master Zhu Yin step by step. It was as if a demon was slowly approaching. Palace Master Zhu Yin felt an inexplicable fear. She felt a chill down her spine. The fire in front of her became more and more ferocious, provoking fire. As he walked slowly, the devouring fire in Lin Feng's hand had already changed color. The star source energy was tightly wrapped around it. The phoenix mark on his forehead was already shining brightly. His radiant eyes were completely locked on Palace Master Zhu Yin. The surroundings were silent. Everyone was completely shocked, especially King Lu and King Zhu. Their expressions were extremely ugly. Without the lips, the teeth would be cold. At this moment, the 2 of them were on the same side as Palace Master Zhu Yin. But did they dare to move? Like a top bow, a slight move would be like a thunderbolt. The surrounding saints did not dare to make a sound. If it were ordinary ancient martial art practitioners, they would have already rushed over. However, Lin Feng's aura was too terrifying. It shocked everyone. Only the crackling sound of the fire was left in the air. It was as if the fire of hell was burning. What would Lin Feng do? Would he really dare to start a massacre here? There was a huge question mark in everyone's heart. Their expressions changed continuously. Their hearts were in a mess. Palace Master Juyan's face was pale. She kept retreating. The surrounding saints all moved aside. It was as if this matter did not concern them. Only the two Orange Moon Palace saints, standing behind Palace Master Juyan, looked terrified. However, they still firmly guarded Palace Master Juyan. In an instant, stop! The saint on the left behind Palace Master Juyan gritted his teeth and shouted. Just as he finished speaking, a terrifying aura instantly descended. It was a ball of fire. It was as terrifying as a phoenix spreading its wings. It was condensed with the strongest star source energy. Lin Feng's eyes shone with a terrifying light. Boom! A terrifying explosion instantly erupted. In an instant, the entire challenge platform was shocked. Everyone's eyes widened in horror. Palace Master Juyan and the other Orange Moon Palace saint dodged out of the way. The surrounding saints also scattered in all directions. Boom! The violent explosion was deafening. The Orange Moon Palace saint who had just spoken was instantly burned into nothingness by the blazing fire. Not even his bones were left. It was just one blow. How terrifying! Although he had just stepped into the saint level, he was still a saint level expert. He could not even take one blow from Lin Feng. Even if he used his strongest defense, he could not escape the fate of having his soul destroyed. His death was like a signal that deeply shocked everyone. Lin Feng was not putting on an act. He truly dared to stand against the entire southern region. He had the strength, and even more so, the courage. His cold face did not say a word, but the pressure he gave off was even stronger. In an instant, Lin Feng's hand lit up with the devouring fire again. Its color gradually changed. The brilliant star source energy wrapped around the ferocious flame, causing the hearts of all the saints to palpitate. No one dared to make a sound. They were afraid that the terrifying flame would attack them next. Stomp! Stomp! Lin Feng was still closing in. His gaze was fixed on Palace Master Juyan. Her beautiful face had already turned pale. Her heart was about to jump out of her throat. At this moment, the feeling of death was so close. Looking at the black-clothed youth in front of her, it was as if the incarnation of the Grim Reaper had arrived. Although she was at the peak of the saint level, Palace Master Juyan was not confident that she could survive in front of this terrifying Grim Reaper. The most frightening thing was that no one would step forward to help her. Wait! Palace Master Juyan said in a panic. Seeing Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up and the flame in his hand became even brighter, Palace Master Juyan was scared of her wits. She quickly shouted, "I'm changing my vote to no. No, I'm canceling the motion just now." As her voice fell, everyone's eyes widened. Palace Master Juyan was scared. Everyone focused on her. Palace Master Juyan's face was pale. The surrounding gazes were full of ridicule and disdain. At this moment, she knew that she had lost all her face. Palace Master Juyan's face turned red as she looked at Lin Feng, who was still smiling faintly. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. I abstain. Palace Master Juyan lowered her head and gritted her teeth. Her red face was full of humiliation. In an instant, she jumped up and left. She would only be a laughing stock if she stayed here. Chapter 1236. Palace Master Juyan's departure caused an uproar. Everyone looked at Lin Feng, their eyes filled with shock and astonishment. They didn't know what this meant. Countless gazes fell on Shun, but Shun still maintained his calm smile, as if everything that had happened was just an ordinary dispute. King Lu and King Ju's expressions changed, but they knew that they couldn't stop Lin Feng. They were both smart people and understood the situation clearly. If they dared to cause trouble, Lin Feng would not hesitate to point his spear at them, just like how he pointed at Palace Master Juyan. This power struggle was like a miniature version of the battle for the Emperor's throne. The curtains had come to an end. I also forfeit, King Lu said slowly. Lin Feng looked over and saw King Lu's apologetic smile. He smiled his heart. A wise man submits to circumstances. King Lu knew that he couldn't stop him, so he quickly retreated, trying to erase the bad impression he had. On the other hand, King Ju clenched his fists and gritted his teeth, unwilling to give up, but didn't say anything. Their personalities were different, so they handled things differently. The motion was canceled. Palace Master Zhu Yin and King Lu's forfeit meant that they had given up on the final battle of the battle for the Emperor's throne. Among the people present, the one who knew Lin Feng's strength the best was neither the King of Flame nor Emperor Shun. It was the King of Lu, who was extremely observant. No one knew Lin Feng's strength better than him. Whether it was Lin Feng's feats in Nanlu or the battle where he defeated the Holy Lord of the Human Demon, he knew that Lin Feng was far stronger than him. Rather than fight pointlessly, he might as well save his face and try to change Lin Feng's bad impression. I also forfeit. Huang Lu smiled and nodded at Lin Feng, his hands behind his back, his long hair dancing in the wind. Since he had decided to stand on Lin Feng's side, he would follow through with his attitude to the end. Moreover, he was only an advanced saint, so there was no need for him to get involved. Instantly, only King Yin, King Ju, and Cuckoo were left in the field. The three of them were peak saints, and they were also popular contenders for the throne. The eyes of the three of them flickered as they pondered. It was as if they each had their own ideas. Lin Feng looked at Emperor Shun, who looked back at him and nodded. They understood what he meant. In an instant, Lin Feng lightly stepped on the stage with his right foot. Amidst the crowd's shocked gasps, Lin Feng landed lightly on the stage. King Yin and the other two were slightly stunned, but they didn't know why. Shun, on the other hand, smiled and nodded approvingly. Come on by one. Or perhaps there's no harm in coming together, Lin Feng said indifferently. His black robes made him look extremely cold in everyone's eyes. Even though he had a smile on his face, his arrogant words caused one's heart to go cold. Combined with his unbridled slaughter from before, the impression of Lin Feng in the hearts of everyone had completely changed. Anyone who still saw Lin Feng as an ordinary person would be too stupid, cold-blooded, bloodthirsty, and arrogant. At this moment, Lin Feng had been branded in everyone's hearts. Or rather, this was the brand that Emperor Shun wanted to leave in everyone's hearts. It was also the most suitable temperament that the ruler of the southern region needed to have. The third war of the liches and demons is about to begin. What the southern region needs is not a benevolent emperor like Emperor Shun, but a killing god, a powerful expert who dares to go against any force, who has absolute power and can ignore everything to rule the entire southern region. Lin Feng's eyes were cold. He had already understood. Emperor Shun had put in a lot of effort. The first impression was very important. It affected everyone's confidence in him. Even if he became the ruler of the southern region, what was the use if he didn't have the support of the people? Just like Emperor Shun, although he had great prestige and had the support of King Yin and the other powerful experts, there were still too many voices of opposition in the southern region. Many forces were restless. Strength was very important. Tactics were also indispensable. This was the path that Emperor Shun had carefully planned for himself. The path to becoming an emperor. As expected, the strongest left hand that the heavenly secret saint lord recommended to me. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. At this moment, a violent aura spread out. Since he wanted to be the bad guy, he had to show his attitude. He had to do it more fiercely and violently. It didn't matter what kind of image he had in their hearts. The most important thing was to firmly control the entire southern region. He didn't want voices of opposition like Palace Master Zhu Yan's. This was very important. 1 against 3, Lin Feng was very arrogant. However, he had the capital and strength to be arrogant. None of the people present dared to question him. Even King Yin and the other two did not feel insulted at this moment. After the confrontation with Palace Master Zhu Yin, Lin Feng's strength had been confirmed by everyone. He was indeed the real deal. King Ju raised his head. He seemed to have something to say, but King Yin was the first to speak. I'll be the first one. King Yin laughed valiantly and jumped onto the stage. With just 5 words, he completely rejected the plan of 3 against 1. He was a straightforward person. He did whatever he wanted to do. Since he believed in Lin Feng, he would fight to the end. The reason why he didn't give up was because losing without a fight wasn't his style. Even if Lin Feng was very strong, King Yin, he still wanted to fight. He wanted to experience it personally. This was the firm will of a martial artist. It was the soul of a martial artist. King Yin had this. Lin Feng also had this. He could feel it clearly and deeply. Looking at King Yin in front of him, Lin Feng smiled. Even though they didn't meet often, he had heard of King Yan's name since the first time he stepped into the Vermilion Bird Continent. He didn't expect to stand on the same level as him. Times had changed. No need to show mercy, Brother Lin, Brother Lin. King Yan's eyes were burning. If you want to fight, let's fight to our heart's content. That's exactly what I want. Sorry for the offense, King Yin. Lin Feng's hand lit up. Two streaks of flames lit up the stage. A fierce battle. Bang! There was a violent collision. The two figures separated. King Yan's face was pale as he fell heavily to the ground. On the other hand, Lin Feng stopped and floated in the air. The flame in his hand was still burning brightly. He looked down at the Flame King who was lying on the stage and didn't continue to attack. Hua! The flame was extinguished. Lin Feng's self-state also disappeared. The outcome was clear. I lost. King Yin covered his chest and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He stood up. You let me win. Lin Feng stepped onto the stage and cupped his hands. Ha! King Yin didn't look upset at all. Instead, he laughed loudly. What is lost is gained in the East. I didn't expect the little guy from back then to be so powerful now. With such a powerful person in the southern region, what do we have to fear? It was as if he was talking to himself, but it was also as if he was telling everyone. King Yin was in a good mood. Although he had lost, he was still proud. There was a lot of discussion around. Everyone had seen the battle just now. Lin Feng's strength wasn't fanciful. He defeated King Yin with absolute strength in less than 3 moves. This strength wasn't fake, as Palace Master Zhu Yin had said. He had real strength. Everyone, don't listen to Palace Master Zhu Yan's provocation. This woman has ulterior motives. King Yin shouted. Lin Feng is a citizen of the Vermilion Bird Continent. I, King Yin, have seen him improve his strength step by step. This person's talent is rarely seen in thousands of years. He's definitely a rare genius of the human race. Also, I just realized that Lin Feng had used up a lot of his strength in the battle with the Holy Lord of the Human Demon. His soul energy is very weak. King Yan's eyes were burning. He looked around and patted his chest. I, King Yin, swear with my life that Lin Feng has nothing to do with the Holy Lord of the Human Demon. Like a tiger roaring in the forest, King Yan's words made the saints feel relieved. All the doubts in their hearts were dispelled. In a split second, the saints below all started to chime in. Palace Master Zhu Yin is so disgusting. She's spreading rumors for her own selfish desires. That's right. That woman used her beauty to distort the truth and almost caused us to fall into her trap. It's so satisfying to have our faces trampled in front of everyone. Serves them right. Lin Feng is too powerful. He's injured but still so strong. King Yin was defeated in a single exchange. Of course, he's an expert who can defeat the Holy Lord of the Human Demon fair and square. TSK, as expected of a rare talent. The direction of the wind had completely changed. When Lin Feng heard the various discussions, a smile appeared on his face. Bitterness comes after sweetness. If not for Palace Master Zhu Yan's meddling and Emperor Shun's painstaking arrangements, King Yan's promotion wouldn't have been so successful and deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. There was no need for him to open his mouth to clarify anything, nor was there any need for him to confirm anything. Everything was already clear. He had to thank King Yin and Emperor Shun. But before that, there were still 2 steps left. King Zhu Kuku, I am not your opponent. Kuku's eagle-like eyes stared at Lin Feng. He said these words frankly and did not say anything else. His meaning was very clear. After seeing Lin Feng's true strength, Kuku directly admitted defeat. His straightforwardness, coupled with his vote against Lin Feng just now, instantly made Kuku have a good impression of him. I didn't expect him to be such a good person. Yeah, I thought that the great thief was a loner and acted in an evil way. After all, he only appeared briefly 100 years ago and then lived in seclusion. We don't know what he's like. Yeah, he's a real man. Everyone agreed. The direction of the wind had completely changed. After the battle with King Yin, everyone was on Lin Feng's side. Everything they thought and did was on Lin Feng's side. The change was huge. In comparison, the only remaining King Ju had become the target of public criticism. Under everyone's gaze, King Ju's expression was ugly. He couldn't advance or retreat and was in a dilemma. He instantly became the focus of attention. At this moment, Lin Feng was on his way to becoming the lord of the southern region. There was only one obstacle left. King Ju. What would he do? Lin Feng looked over, a bright light flashing in his eyes. However, he was also curious. Chapter 1237. Northern Region. Leader, the final battle of the Southern Region's throne competition will begin today, Elder Lu said. I know. Zhuo Bufon's eyes flickered as he played with the luminous cup in his hand. Then the method you mentioned before. Elder Lu said hesitantly. It failed. Zhuo Bufon waved his hand unhappily and looked at Elder Lu with cold eyes. Others don't know, but don't tell me you don't know. The Tsai Society's forces in the southern region have been wiped out. Now that their reputation is in shambles, how can they have the time and energy to participate in the competition? Elder Lu said, It's just that the Witch Emperor's punishment is more important. It's useless. Tell them that I'm at my wit's end, Zhuo Bufon said impatiently. Elder Lu moved his mouth and replied, Yes, leader. Once he finished speaking, he sighed softly and slowly disappeared from the hall's entrance with a hint of regret. Looking at the departing figure, Zhuo Bufon's originally unfriendly face slowly froze, and he sneered. Old man, you're really scheming. Your master is seriously injured, but you want to curry favor with the Witch Emperor so quickly. Using the human demon Holy Lord to get rid of me. Your plan is not bad. Unfortunately, the heavens don't listen to your wishes, huh? Lin Feng, Zhuo Bufon murmured, his eyes flashing. First, he swept my Tsai Society, then seriously injured the human demon Holy Lord. This kid really has some skills. However, don't think that I'll just let it go. Zhuo Bufon kneaded the luminous cup in his hand. The dark green color reflected his sparkling eyes, which had deep shrewdness. Idiot, do you think that I, Zhuo Bufon, only control the Tsai Society? The luminous cup in his hand shattered. Zhuo Bufon sneered. If we're talking about chess pieces, I have plenty of them. On the challenge stage. At this moment, King Ju was in a difficult position. He had never been in such an embarrassing situation because he had stood on the wrong side before. If he had voted against Lin Feng, like Cuckoo, there would be no need to hesitate now. Standing on the stage, even if he lost, it would be a glorious defeat, like King Yin. If he didn't accept the challenge, like Cuckoo, he would be praised. However, he voted in favor of it. Furthermore, his reaction was not as fast as King Lu's, making it difficult for him to advance or retreat. He knew that he would definitely lose if he went up on the stage. Moreover, it would depend on Lin Feng's feelings and whether or not Lin Feng would hold back. Even if Lin Feng accidentally seriously injured him, no one would say anything. But if he didn't go up on the stage, he would definitely be ridiculed and labeled as a coward and would be pointed at behind his back. Either way, he would lose all face. His heart was in a mess. Right at this moment, whoosh, a gray energy suddenly rose from the depths of King Ju's heart. No one saw it. It was impossible to see it. It was like the summoning of a demon. It was a power that did not belong to a martial artist. King Ju's eyes lit up. Lin Feng, who was staring at King Ju, shuddered. A familiar aura appeared on King Ju's body. He felt like he had seen it somewhere before. The light in King Ju's eyes kept changing, as if there was a surge of energy within. Lin Feng pondered. The changes in the aura were complicated. King Ju seemed to have changed into another person. It was not a change in the aura, but a change in the heart. His eyes. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The light flashed. The pressure was extremely strong. The power of a peak saint was dazzling. Behind King Ju, the constellation of Indian constellation was completely lit up. From appearing to being blurry, from being blurry to being hazy, it slowly bloomed and became clearer. And at this moment, everyone saw that King Ju was different. In a split second, it caused a heated discussion. Obviously, King Ju wanted a fight. TSK. He is not Lin Feng's opponent at all. That's right. Even King Yin could not take more than 3 moves from Lin Feng. Let's see how Lin Feng wins later. Everyone's voices rose, but it did not affect King Ju at all. He really changed. Lin Feng's gaze congealed. Pata! Pata! King Ju's muscles were changing, condensing, and refining, as though the essence was being extracted. Following King Ju's growl, his aura clashed continuously. His veins were exposed, as though a wild beast was transforming. The clearest thing was undoubtedly the constellation behind King Ju. Perfect display. At this moment, Emperor Shun, King Yin, and the rest of the strong martial artists had already noticed something strange. The constellation was too clear. That clarity was more like pump. A shocking explosion of chi energy caused the surrounding martial artists to be dumbfounded. A layer of gray light enveloped King Ju, merging with his originally black starlight, forming a strange color. But this was not what shocked everyone. The truly terrifying thing was that King Ju's body had completely changed. From inside to outside, it was as though he had forcefully expanded. His entire person was stronger and more refined. It was as though the impurities were removed, leaving only the essence behind. The power was extremely terrifying. It disappeared. Look, the constellation behind King Ju disappeared. Look at his forehead. Oh my God. There was an uproar as everyone was shocked. The disappearance of the constellation was replaced by the appearance of the constellation on King Ju's forehead. The layer of light was dazzling, causing the surrounding saints to be deeply shocked, mixed with endless jealousy and envy. That was the symbol of the Saint-King level. The system of power had completely changed. Boom! King Ju clenched his fists. Like an enraged lion, his aura suddenly exploded. A cloud of dust flew, causing the surrounding saints to be blown away. That pair of bright eyes stared straight at Lin Feng. When their eyes met, Lin Feng's eyes were also filled with a strange light. At this moment, an aura that was slightly inferior to the human demon Holy Masters rose, but had a similar level of power. Astral origin energy that was purer and more powerful than his. Saint King level. This was not the real King Ju, but it was the much stronger King Ju. Just like them, Lin Feng's heart trembled, his eyes burning. At this moment, he had completely remembered. It was exactly the same as the group of citizens that he had seen in the kingdom of Maru. Their eyes seemed to have no human emotions, as if they were controlled by demons. The murderous aura was extremely strong, and their strength was strengthened by the layer of gray energy. But here, it allowed King Ju, who was originally at the edge of the Saint King level, to completely break through the bottleneck. Now, he was a beginner Saint King. Boom! Jumping up from the ground, King Ju shot towards the stage like an arrow released from a bow. The surging aura made everyone's heart skip a beat, and a chill ran down their spines. That was the real Saint King level aura, and it was not fake. King Ju had completely transformed. Thud! He landed heavily. Lin Feng and King Ju's eyes met, and their battle intent condensed in the sky. The battle instantly started. There was no hesitation. King Ju's eyes were burning, and there was no longer any human emotions in them. It was as if he had sold his soul to the demons. But in exchange, he had an even stronger power and a stronger, murderous aura. At this moment, he was no longer the normal King Ju, but a cold-blooded, murderous god, just like the violent citizens of the kingdom of Maru. There was no emotion, or rather, there was only one reason left in his mind, and that was kill the person in front of him. Oh no! Lin Feng's heart trembled, and his expression changed slightly. King Ju came too quickly, and he did not have enough time to summon his doppelganger and use the 7 ultimate heavenly star formation. Compared to the holy master of the human demon, King Ju's attack was fierce and cruel, and he did not hesitate. Fast, unusually fast. King Ju, who had just entered the beginner Saint King level, was faster than the holy master of a human demon, who was in the intermediate Saint King level. It was unbelievable, but that was the truth. It's this layer of great energy. Lin Feng pursed his lips, and the flames in his hands did not burn. With his current strength, he would be at a disadvantage in a head-on clash. His astral origin power was already inferior, and the difference in strength of a single level made him suffer in all aspects. It was different from the battle with the holy master of the human demon. At that time, he had the formation to rely on, but there was nothing in front of him. But no matter how much he was at a disadvantage, he could not avoid this battle. It was not only because he was on the challenge stage, but also because it was the final battle of the Imperial Throne competition and the battle for the Southern Region's master. It was also because of the huge question mark in his mind. This gray energy only appeared in the Kingdom of Meru, and it belonged to the 10,000 Bones Empire. So why? Why did it appear on King Ju? Was it a coincidence? Or was there some other reason? Was there some big secret hidden in it? It was very important to him. Yang Mirror. Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and the yin-yang mirror appeared in his hand. This earth-grade black class connate treasure that his grandfather, Feng Chao, had given him greatly increased his combat strength. Even when fighting against Saint King-level powerhouses, it was still very effective. Although there were only two abilities, both the Yang Mirror and the Yin Mirror had their own miraculous effects. Now, he had to distance himself. Whoosh! Light shot out in all directions, and the astral energy gathered in the white light. The yin-yang mirror instantly bloomed with infinite light, and the diamond-shaped colors were like countless pieces of glass overlapping each other. The light was constantly refracted, and instantly formed an intense light array in front of him. With the astral energy as the axis, the yin-yang mirror bloomed with strange energy. What is this? What a dazzling light! Why can't I sense Lin Feng and King Ju's aura? Everyone exclaimed. Emperor Shun's eyes lit up slightly, and the other experts also looked envious. This kind of treasure could not only block vision, but also cut off aura. It was an excellent treasure for heavenly gods who had to distance themselves from each other. The white light formed a natural array, and it quickly built up with the yang mirror and the astral energy as the axis. The fronts seemed to be separated into two worlds by the yin-yang mirror. Lin Feng quickly retreated, and his eyes changed rapidly. Their figures stacked together in an instant. But how is this possible? Lin Feng's expression changed. He suddenly felt that the distance between him and King Ju had not widened, but had gotten closer in an instant. Moreover, he was getting closer and closer. He completely ignored the effects of the yang mirror. Oh no! Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. At this moment, it was too late to summon another clone, and King Ju's speed was very fast. It was as fast as lightning. Chapter 1238. It was the gray energy. Lin Feng's eyes turned cold as this thought appeared in his mind. But at this moment, it was no longer important to find out how his opponent broke the effects of his yang mirror. The most important thing was that the dense black aura, along with an earth-shattering punch, had already arrived with a loud bang like a bolt of lightning. It was an astonishing suppression. Compared to a Saint King was superior in all aspects. There was no need to talk about the body, not to mention the star source energy, the perception of space, the use of the four great cores of heaven and earth, and even the touch of energy were all elevated to a whole new level. Especially King Ju, who seemed to have turned into a killing machine, existing only for killing. With one mind, he unleashed his strength to the maximum. Fight! Lin Feng pursed his lips. He had to fight. The situation was extremely dangerous. He was facing King Ju, whose strength was completely unknown. If he treated him as a normal Saint King, it would be a mistake. He was already at a disadvantage in the first attack. If he used another trick in the second attack, he might be in a desperate situation. Provoking fire. Lin Feng clenched his fists and unleashed his full strength. Maybe he did not like such a method of fighting. It was only beneficial to him. But in the current situation, he did not have any other choice. This was the safest. Bang! The fire was dazzling, boiling. Lin Feng's eyes were determined. The phoenix fire on his forehead suddenly rose, causing the engulfing fire to spin like a hurricane. The control of the star source energy condensed into the rebirth fire. The two flames found a perfect match in an instant. The connection in his heart was incomparably strong. Fist against fist. Fight! Bang! A violent explosion sounded out of nowhere, like a bomb exploding in the middle of the challenge stage. The terrifying force caused the faces of the saints around to change, and they all put up their defenses to block it. And at the center, where the light gathered, the force swirled like a whirlpool. The shocking centrifugal force and reaction force instantly repelled the two. It was extremely shocking. Puff! Blood spurted out. Lin Feng was directly injured. The force was like a mountain on his chest, the force crazily biting his body. His right arm was completely numb. If it wasn't for the power of the provoking flame, he wouldn't have just been injured. The power of King Ju's punch was terrifying. As expected, this gray energy has strengthened King Ju in all aspects. Lin Feng's eyes turned cold and his expression changed. He quickly adjusted his aura. Faced with such a situation, if he did not have the help of his doppelganger and the restriction of the 7 ultimate heavenly star formation, he would have no chance of winning. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and his body seemed to have become a shadow. But in an instant, Lin Feng's face turned cold. Here it comes again. How is this possible? Lin Feng was truly shocked. The power of his attack just now was not small either. Although the difference in power was 40 to 60%, the reaction force was enough to put some distance between them. However, King Ju attacked again in the blink of an eye. He was like a wild beast that did not fear death. Even if he had to swallow his injuries, he was unwilling to widen the distance between them. This kind of fighting spirit and persistence was rather shocking. At this moment, King Ju had the upper hand. Not giving me a chance to breathe? Lin Feng's expression was serious. In his self-state, his heart was extremely calm. Every moment, thousands of thoughts flashed through his mind. He could not rely on his doppelganger. For this battle, he could only fight with his main body. Compared to the battle with the human demon Holy Master, this battle would be even more difficult. However, he had no way out. My soul energy has been greatly depleted. The vermilion bird attack cannot be used to its full power by 50%. However, this is the only way to win. Lin Feng was very clear. Compared to his doppelganger, his main body's greatest trump card was the power of a heavenly soul master. It was the power of his 9-layered eyes. Vermilion bird attack. Spear. Lin Feng's amethyst spear appeared in his hand. Using his fist to condense flames was not as effective as using his spear to condense flames. Lanyan's step heart casually moved, and his body quickly retreated. He tried to find time to breathe and prepare. Every moment was extremely important to him. With the amethyst spear in his hand, the surrounding aura was completely suppressed. The feeling of space was extremely uncomfortable. Even with the top-tier Vastar eyes, it was only a draw. In front of him, the pressure from the black fog became stronger and stronger. The star seal on King Ju's forehead was completely lit up. Path of the God of War, Aztec constellation. So powerful. This is King Ju? How did he suddenly become so powerful? Not only Emperor Shun, but King Yin, King Lu, and the others were also extremely shocked. Amateurs enjoyed the show, while experts understood the technique. With the strength of a peak saint, they could understand the current situation. Perhaps in the eyes of others, Lin Feng was only slightly suppressed. However, in the eyes of Emperor Shun and the others, the scales of this battle were completely tilted. Lin Feng was in an extremely passive situation. A god of war, and a sage king at that, had the initiative. How dangerous was that? For heavenly gods, distance was too important. However, Lin Feng was not an ordinary heavenly god. He was a heavenly god who mainly attacked in close combat. Strange. Again, Lin Feng gritted his teeth. Even though he did not like this battle, he had no other choice. The second clash. Even though he could not unleash the full power of the purple crystal spear, it was still slightly more powerful than a simple punch. Facing King Ju's barbaric fighting style, Lin Feng was also stubborn and unwilling to admit defeat. His battle intent was extremely strong. Let's fight. It was not that easy to defeat him. Pung. It was yet another collision of heavenly lightning and earth fire. Terrifying flames with rich star source energy spread out like a sudden clap of thunder. Although the surrounding saints had retreated a lot to avoid it, they were still affected. Many of the saints who were slightly closer to it had their defenses broken. Very powerful. Damn it. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. The first attack was clearly not King Ju's limit. The attack just now raised King Ju's attack by a full 50%. It was still a 40% to 60% attack. He was injured again. Pada! Pada! His torn muscles and damaged skin quickly healed. To him, these kinds of superficial wounds were nothing. No matter how serious his injuries were, as long as they weren't fatal, he could quickly recover. What was truly fatal was the extreme consumption of star source energy and the loss of his engulfing flame. No matter how strong the flame-provoking fire was, without the support of these two, it was like a housewife could not cook without rice. Again, roar. Roar like a wild beast. King Ju, who was suffering from the huge recoil, swallowed all the damage in midair and attacked again. To him who was killing, it did not matter whether he was injured or not. As long as he could defeat Lin Feng, it was enough to tear him to pieces. His only goal. There was no time to catch his breath. A war of attrition. The purest and simplest war of attrition. Both sides were competing with strength, competing with willpower. Come. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. He was not afraid. He had his limits. King Ju had his limits too. It seemed like a dangerous situation, but he still had a chance to turn the tables. King Ju's fighting style had sealed his plan to summon his doppelgangers, but he had also paid a heavy price. It did not reduce the power of the attack, but the damage done to him was even worse than his own. It was only because his body was stronger now, and because of the existence of the gray energy, he did not feel weak at all. But this action was known as overdraft. Go on, continue to overdraft. Even if you don't know pain, it doesn't matter. But dripping water can penetrate stone. These seemingly insignificant injuries will accumulate and be enough to kill you. Also, I still have my strongest trump card that I have not used yet. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He was certain. Even if the situation was so dangerous, he could not give up hope no matter what the situation was. It seemed powerful, but every warrior had their weaknesses. There would be flaws in every battle. It was just a matter of whether he could grasp them or not. And now again, Lin Feng's spear was on fire. His expression was firm as usual. This was not the first time he had been through such a battle of life and death. Although King Ju's enhancement, with the help of the extra power, had cultivated an unparalleled fighting spirit and murderous spirit, it had also caused him to lose a lot of his rationality. In a battle, this was a very unrealistic but not negligible factor. Pung, pung, bang. The thunder-like collisions shook the heavens. Both sides were evenly matched, and Lin Feng showed everyone how powerful he was. He fought a sage king with the power of a sage, and he was a heavenly god. The surrounding sages were stunned, but they had learned their lesson and retreated to watch from afar. Only Emperor Shun, King Lu, King Yin, and Miao Miao were at the side of the stage. They ignored the aftershocks of the attacks. They were all sages, but their strength could be worlds apart. Oh my God, the two of them are too crazy. How is this a final battle? This is a battle of life and death. They would fight to the death. Both of them were heavily injured. Their auras were dropping. The difference was that Lin Feng was holding on with his willpower, while King Ju was still expressionless. The terrifying power in his body had turned him into a cold-blooded Grim Reaper. His mind was filled with nothing but killing. He's going to lose. King Yin frowned. Lin Feng's aura has dropped too much. King Lu muttered. Emperor Shun watched the entire battle. His eyes were shining. He could feel the difference in their strength. King Yin and King Lu were right. Lin Feng's loss was much greater than King Ju's. King Ju might have suffered more damage, but he was a sage king. Even if he had just become a sage king, Lin Feng could not compare to him. The key was the difference in their levels. It won't be easy to win, unless Lin Feng still has a trump card up his sleeve. But it's still unknown whether it will work on King Ju. Emperor Shun nodded thoughtfully. In this battle, the scales were completely on King Ju's side. Lin Feng was in danger. Next chapter 10:00. Chapter 12:39. Danger? It was indeed very dangerous. How could Lin Feng not know that? But was there a second path? Admitting defeat before the final moment was not something he wanted to do. I have not lost my chance of victory. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. There was a deep blood stain on his chest, as if he had suffered a serious injury. His face was pale and ugly. Lin Feng's mouth was still stained with blood, but his eyes did not lose confidence and hope. Until the final moment, no one knew who would win or lose. If I have lost 80% of my strength, then he has lost at least 50%. Bang! His aura exploded, and the veins on Lin Feng's forehead popped out. He could no longer squander his remaining strength. Even if he had the unique Phoenix natal chart, which allowed him to recover his star source energy quickly, his engulfing fire could not withstand the heavy consumption. Every time he used his engulfing fire, he would use up a lot of his engulfing fire. 2 attacks. The last 2 attacks were possible. Come! Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. The final attack had already begun. He had been exhausting his strength from the start, killing 800 of his enemies while sacrificing 1,000 of his own to maximize the power of the vermilion bird attack. This was his hope of turning the tables. Even if King Ju only had 50% of his strength left, but he had already reached his limit. He had to fight. Vermilion bird attack, 5%. Lin Feng's eyes shone coldly. The special ability of the 9th layer of his eyes was instantly unleashed. A fiery bird flew out like an illusion. The opening of his eyes was like a crack in the sky. The coldness caused all the saints to feel heavy pressure. The power of a heavenly soul master. It's here. King Yan's eyes shone. The ultimate move to defeat the human demon Holy Lord. King Lu's heart was moved. Even from afar, he could feel the powerful soul energy being unleashed. The fiery bird was like a moth darting into a flame, unafraid of death. If he did not succeed, he would die trying. Roar! King Ju roared furiously, but he still maintained his battle instincts. Facing the soul attack, the light in his eyes condensed into a grayish-black color, and the star seal on his forehead shone brightly. The fiery red sparrow flew into King Ju's eyes like a rocket. Even though it was only 5%, it still dealt a considerable amount of damage to King Ju. That was the ultimate move that could heavily injure the human demon Holy Lord. Of course, the power was not the same. King Ju roared hysterically, his veins bulging. His mournful expression sent chills down the spines of the surrounding saints. Even though Lin Feng had been suppressed by King Ju all this while, Lin Feng's ultimate move had instantly suppressed King Ju, just like the human demon Holy Lord. It was extremely terrifying. What a powerful move. Special eyes full of offensive power. I wonder what kind of ability it is to be able to surpass the gap of an entire stage. Everyone's heart palpitated. Everyone held their breaths as they watched this battle that was rarely seen in 10,000 years. Boom! Boom! The grayish-black aura completely exploded, and King Ju fell into extreme madness. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked terrifying. His aura fluctuated between strong and weak, but he was not suppressed. Even though he had expended a lot of energy, King Ju was still a beginner Saint King. That included his soul. Furthermore, his soul was strengthened by the gray energy. Compared to the human demon Holy Lord, whose soul was stronger? No one knew. Even Lin Feng did not know. However, this did not stop the attack from coming. There was only one path left. Fiery Dragon Spear Art. Lin Feng shouted coldly. Facing the perfect situation brought about by the Vermilion Bird's attack, how could he miss the opportunity to heavily injure King Ju? However, no matter how crazy and ferocious King Ju was, his aura fluctuating between strong and weak, he was not someone to be trampled on. His violent fists punched out again, and the star armor on his body shone brightly. He was not someone to be trifled with. Pung! The explosion of the aura was like the collapse of heaven and earth. Every spectating saint felt like their chests were being ripped apart, and the earth seemed to be shaking violently. The battle between the two had already reached its climax. Boom! They collided and separated. King Ju was completely repelled and could no longer withstand the rebounding force. However, this time, it was Lin Feng's turn to take the brunt of the damage. With a hoarse roar, Lin Feng forcefully stopped himself. His body was bleeding profusely. Even though he was injured again, it did not matter now. No matter how injured he was, he could not let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. For the first time, he had suppressed King Ju. So, Lin Feng's aura exploded. Although his eyes were extremely tired, they were filled with determination. This was the willpower that he had trained since he was young. This was the ability that he had gained through countless battles. This was the soul of a true martial artist, and not the power that he gained by selling his heart to the devil. This kind of power would not change because of any factors. It would only get stronger as he fought. Again, Lin Feng's attack was extremely fast. The amethyst spear in his hand was humming loudly, as though it could feel its master's determination, as though it could feel the situation before it. The amethyst spear seemed to have a strong fighting spirit. It was as though its soul had been awakened. Swords drawn, one strike, and victory would be decided. Vermilion Bird attack, 25%. Lin Feng roared. His eyes seemed to have used up all his spirit power. He was left with less than 15% of his strength. It was only enough to support his body. The rest could only be completed with his willpower and determination. This was his last burst of strength. Bang! The amethyst spear was already releasing a purple light. See, King Yin and the rest all took a deep breath. Feeling the spirit power at such a close distance, their hearts were deeply moved. This was a battle of life and death. There was no mercy to speak of, no matter who it was. As long as they were careless for a moment, it was enough to lose the battle. The outcome could very well be death. King Ju was already crazy. Facing Lin Feng's burst of strength, he was completely at a disadvantage. The injuries he had suffered before were still shocking. His current situation was extremely bad. The foundation he had laid before was turned around in an instant. King Ju, who had lost most of his rationality, was completely inferior to Lin Feng in terms of battle performance. But could Lin Feng's last attack win against King Ju? 30-70. Emperor Shun's eyes were bright. Looking at King Ju's injuries and his reaction, Lin Feng has a 70% chance of winning this battle. Emperor Shun unconsciously clenched his fists. Even though he could remain calm, even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, he felt an inexplicable sense of nervousness. As he clenched his fists, his palms were already somewhat sweaty. This extremely fierce battle had touched everyone's nerves and gathered everyone's gazes. At this very moment, all of them were staring intently at the final results. Would Lin Feng's soul attack work? Would it? Yes. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. Even if it doesn't kill him, it will be enough to make him lose his ability to fight. The fiery red vermilion bird flew out as if it was spitting fire. It was much stronger and purer than the previous vermilion bird. As someone who had experienced the battle of attrition with King Ju, no one knew King Ju's strength better than him. The 5% vermilion bird's ambush wasn't just an attack. It was also a test to see King Ju's bottom line, to see how strong his soul defense was. From his reaction, It was clear that the gray energy had a limited effect on his soul defense. However, King Ju's soul defense was still inferior to the Holy Lord of the human demon. 25% is enough to defeat him. Definitely. Lin Feng pursed his lips. He was full of confidence. This was also why he was so determined. Even if he had less than 15% of his soul power left, he had to use this move. If he wanted to win, he had to win thoroughly. Go! Lin Feng roared. His eyes were shining brightly. At such a close distance, King Ju had no way of defending himself. All that was left was the most intimate, a battle of souls. In a situation where there was no counterforce, this soul attack was definitely the best key to victory. At the same time, it was also the only key. But at that moment, Lin Feng was stunned. Whoosh! A golden light appeared in front of him. Even if King Ju had sold his soul to the demon, even if he had become a murderous god, he was still fighting. He had not lost his mind. That golden light was too familiar. The surging energy was the peak of an Earth-grade Khanate treasure. A golden treasure. As Emperor Yao's fourth senior brother and the ruler of a continent, how could King Ju not have any treasures? It's the fish heart tier. Emperor Shun's eyes lit up. It's been a long time. Master gave it to fourth junior brother. I didn't expect him to keep it until now. Emperor Shun felt his mouth go dry. His tightly clenched fists were slowly loosening. He looked at the golden light in front of him. It seemed to be converging into the shape of a fish. It opened its mouth slightly and was about to swallow the fiery red vermilion bird. Emperor Shun heaved a sigh of relief and closed his eyes. His heart sank to the bottom of the valley. He felt a sense of loss. Lin Feng had already unleashed his full strength, but he was still going to fail. Is this what you want, Master? Emperor Shun said softly. This is... Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. Never would he have thought that King Ju still had such a trump card up his sleeve. That golden fish looked insignificant, but he knew that the strength of its aura was not ordinary. The convergence of golden light not only devoured external attacks, it also devoured soul attacks. The seemingly cute little golden fish was now filled with so much hatred. Can you swallow it? Lin Feng's eyes were wide open. He roared and increased the power of the vermilion bird's attack. 35%. He was going all out. Dying. Lin Feng was extremely crazy. Once again, he used 10% of his soul power. At this moment, his life spirit was completely dim. His strength was completely depleted. His body felt weak. Waves of exhaustion hit him. His spirit was completely dispirited. He was about to collapse in an instant. But how could he collapse at this moment? Lin Feng's eyes were wide open. He bit the tip of his tongue. The intense pain woke him up instantly. The amethyst spear in his hand shone brightly. 35% of the vermilion bird's attack had already clashed with the golden fish. The fiery red light and the golden light converged and bloomed with dazzling colors. Next chapter, 000. Chapter 1240. Overpowered. The cries of the fiery red vermilion bird drowned out the golden light. Although much of its soul power had been devoured, it still managed to break through the golden fish's obstruction and headed straight for King Ju. The sudden burst of power was reflected in King Ju's mind. King Ju's eyes widened in shock. He was completely stunned at this moment. Bang! Hysterical screams erupted in an instant. That terrifying screams were enough to cause one to have nightmares at night. It was like the screams of ghosts straight to hell. Lin Feng, his strongest attack. A counterattack that met force with force. Boom! Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. King Ju was in a frenzy. He was in a daze. The gray aura and the black flame aura seemed to be fighting. The star seal on his forehead flickered. He became extremely strange. His body trembled violently. King Ju had suffered a fatal injury. At this moment, the ferocious fire caused the purple crystal spear to whistle. Lin Feng appeared like a sword. His pale face was enough to prove that he was evenly matched in this battle. The amethyst spear pierced out, and a dazzling light soared up like a fire dragon. The devouring flame instantly condensed again. The star source energy revolved like a hurricane, and the rebirth flame shone again. Facing King Ju, who had lost his ability to fight, Lin Feng was like the god of thunder. This attack was enough to kill King Ju. He won. Lin Feng is going to turn the tables. He is so powerful. The surrounding saints were dumbfounded as they watched the sudden turn of events in the battle. It was like Mars colliding with Earth. The intense clash made their blood boil. But Lin Feng was completely suppressed by King Ju until Lin Feng's trump card appeared. He turned the tables and injured King Ju severely. Victory was right in front of him. Emperor Shun was completely stunned. He did not expect Lin Feng to turn the tables. They were overjoyed. Even King Yin and King Lu pursed their lips. They watched the battle intently. They wanted to hear the final song. But as if fate was playing tricks on them, suddenly, the flames were extinguished. Everyone's eyes widened. They had no idea what was going on. Lin Feng's powerful aura and the raging power of fire instantly dissipated. In fact, even Lin Feng himself was stunned. The entire place was silent. The only sound that could be heard was King Ju's hysterical roars and his heavy breathing. The lights went out. The flames of provocation could no longer be gathered. It wasn't that the star source energy was insufficient, nor was it that the devouring flame was lacking. It was just that he could no longer control the power of his soul. Provoking fire required a strong control of soul power. However, right now, Lin Feng only had a sliver of soul power left. His soul power was as weak as a wick, and he was barely able to maintain his consciousness. Only his willpower remained. Lin Feng's body slowed down in an instant. He didn't expect such a result at all. Only this final strike was left, but the flames of provocation were extinguished just like that. There were many things that willpower could not make up for. Roar! At this moment, King Ju's consciousness seemed to have recovered a little. The fluctuation of his aura instantly woke Lin Feng up. All the negative emotions disappeared in an instant. The hand that was holding the purple crystal spear felt a familiar aura. His heart was exhausted, and his body was completely relaxed. In fact, he had no energy left. He was like dust floating in the air. He only had a sliver of power left. However, the feeling he had was so wonderful. He had truly reached his limit. It was a very rare limit of power. After exhausting the devouring flame, he only had a sliver of star source energy left. His body was on the verge of collapse, and his soul suffered the most damage. He was forced to use his strongest power by King Ju. Could he still defeat him now? Lin Feng closed his eyes. At this moment, he had reached his limit, but his heart was calm. The purple crystal spear in his hand, he only held it gently, but it felt so compatible. In this intense battle, he had never felt such calmness before. At the last moment, it appeared unbelievably. Facing the loss of control of his power, there were no more flames. Only the existence of the spear was left. It was also the only existence that he could rely on. His heart entered. It was as if he had become one with the purple crystal spear. This feeling was very familiar. Just 7 days ago, not long ago, he felt it. And now, at this moment, when he reached his limit, when he had no more power to rely on, it was the second time. In fact, it was the first time that he found that feeling. One person, one spear. The feeling of standing between heaven and earth. His right head moved slightly, and his star source energy floated. Lin Feng held the purple crystal spear. He deeply felt the texture of the spear in his hand, and returned to its original simplicity. He did not need to control it deliberately, and did not need any complicated techniques. He communicated with his heart, and used his body and instincts to feel it. At this moment, he and the spear were the only things left in heaven and earth. They connected heaven and earth. Roar! King Ju regained his senses, and his eyes were fierce. His aura was weak, but did not stop him from discovering Lin Feng's existence. He was so close. Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices, and his entire body was twisted like a demon. But the gray energy controlled King Ju, and he attacked again. His fist was powerful, and he wanted to take Lin Feng's life. At this moment, it was as if nothing could stop this attack. The final winner was him. It's over now. Lin Feng is going to lose. I did not expect him to lose like this. The hearts of the surrounding saints sank. They felt that they were just one step away from victory. But Lin Feng did not take that step. And now, King Ju's final attack was enough to smash Lin Feng into pieces. King Yin and King Lu's faces were pale. Emperor Shun frowned. He wanted to save Lin Feng, but he could not take that step. It was not because he was weaker than the two, but because he could not interfere in the battle. Don't die, Lin Feng. Emperor Shun's eyes were bright, and he was ready. Now that Lin Feng had not admitted defeat or was seriously injured, he could not enter the battle. But once King Ju won the battle, he would do his best to save Lin Feng. In Emperor Shun's heart, Lin Feng was already the ruler of the southern region and the future human emperor. Lin Feng's performance had already won him over. At this moment, everyone felt sorry for Lin Feng in their hearts. This battle was too intense. Time seemed to stop at this moment. But at this moment, Lin Feng moved. It was very light, and his movements were unusually soft. He was like a white cloud floating in the sky, so soft and powerless. However, there was a shocking feeling of spear intent. This is... Emperor Shun's eyes widened. What a shocking spear will. King Yin was in disbelief. All the saints widened their eyes. Lin Feng attacked again. Facing King Ju's fierce counterattack, Lin Feng did not sit still and wait for death. He also stabbed out with his spear. Wah! The feeling of the spear was not fixed. The feeling of the will moved along with the movement of the spear, and the scene in front of him changed rapidly. The control of the entire space changed in an instant. In the air, many fragments of white fog dispersed and gradually gathered to form a cloud. It was like the gathering of this white fog, like the birth of a cloud. All the auras in the surroundings gathered at this point. Power, force, and aura transformed into a clean and neat spear, transforming into a white cloud that appeared faintly. It was not fast and violent, and it was not powerful, but it was this spear that seemed to have pierced through the layer of space. One spear was one spear, straight forward, like the clouds rising and the fog parting, dawn breaking. Chi, a crisp sound, but it carried the power of a dragon and a tiger. The power of the spear shot through King Ju's defense like an arrow. King Ju's eyes widened in shock, and he looked at his chest in disbelief. The purple light condensed and pierced a big hole in his star armor, and directly through his chest. The gathering of astral source energy was like an explosion in an instant. Pong! The power of the star source exploded, and along with the power of the spear, there was a trace of blood dancing in the void, and this tragic battle finally came to an end. All the saints looked at this scene and were stunned speechless. No one thought that the one who lost in the end was not Lin Feng, but King Ju. It was an unexpected ending, but not unexpected at the same time. In fact, Lin Feng could have ended the battle just now, but he failed. Just when everyone had lost hope and thought that Lin Feng would not be able to turn the situation around, the power of the spear was like a punishment from the heavens, and it landed on King Ju's body. It was a very calm spear, but it was also a very powerful spear. Boom! King Ju fell heavily to the ground, and his chest was already blown to pieces. His eyes were still wide open, and he died with a grievance. He was not satisfied, but the winner was the king, and the loser was the villain. This is... Shun's eyes widened, and he was extremely shocked. Others might not know, but he recognized this spear, and it was deeply engraved in his memory. Looking at the king of Lu, he saw that the king of Lu was also in a daze. As if he felt Shun's gaze, the king of Lu turned around. Their eyes met, and both of them felt extremely shocked. Shun's hair stood on end. It was the battle between Emperor Yao and another Saint Lord when the two of them were still young. At that time, that sacred lord used this spear to defeat Emperor Yao, and his name was Sacred Lord Cloud Spear. King Lu murmured, "Spear technique, Cloud Rise." Shun muttered to himself, completely dumbfounded. At that moment, there was a thunderous roar around them. After witnessing this shocking battle and witnessing Lin Feng's domineering strength, all the sages were already convinced of Lin Feng's strength, and they admired him to the extreme. Martial artists would only admire those who were much stronger than them, and they could only look up to those who were unreachable. Lin Feng, Lin Feng, Champion Lin Feng. Everyone raised their arms and cheered, and their excitement was indescribable. Looking at the black-clothed young man standing on the stage, no one dared to question his identity, his age, or his qualifications. He had absolute strength, and he had the domineering aura to ignore everything. He had the soul of a true martial artist. He was the final victor of the battle for the throne, and he was also the successor of Emperor Shun, the ruler of the southern region. Lin Feng. Chapter 1241. The winner is king, the loser is a bandit. King Ju died on the stage. No one would discuss whether Lin Feng deserved it because there was no need. The more equal the strength, the more likely the outcome would be. Unless the battle ended in a draw, it would be like Lin Feng and King Ju fighting to the death. It was a roller coaster of a battle. It was not surprising who won. It was just one step away. Now, the one who died was probably Lin Feng. Listening to the cheers around him, Lin Feng's tense nerves slowly relaxed. The hand holding the amethyst spear had lost its last bit of strength. In his mind, he still remembered the feeling of the spear. A weak smile appeared on his face, but he did not expect that when he reached his limit, he would be able to comprehend that spear. The clouds rose. The spear that the mysterious expert taught him. He did not expect it. Originally, it would take at least a year and a half. Lin Feng thought. It might even take longer. After all, the feeling of the spear had to be practiced over and over again. Only then could one slowly comprehend it. Moreover, whether it was the concept of the spear or the spear itself, he was just a beginner. He did not have the knack of it. But sometimes it was just that difficult. The fastest way to improve one's strength was indeed a battle of equal strength. But walking on the line between life and death was also very dangerous. His main body had almost died in that battle. But now, he was unable to continue. Extreme fatigue came to his mind. His eyes dimmed. The little soul power he had left was not enough to control his body. A white light flashed in front of him. Lin Feng's body trembled slightly, but he was still conscious. The last bit of energy flashed in his eyes. Huh. His body appeared like a shadow. In an instant, his original body returned to the phoenix natal plate and fell asleep. The consumption of his soul had reached the last string. On the other side, Senior, King Yin called out softly. His eyes were filled with confusion. Oh! Emperor Shun suddenly came to his senses. He looked at King Lu, who was still in daze, and then looked at Lin Feng. His eyes brightened. He could naturally sense that Lin Feng's aura had changed. He had already changed from his main body to his avatar state. It seemed that Lin Feng had been severely injured in the battle just now. Are you all right, eldest brother? King Yin asked. Nothing. Shun Ran smiled and shook his head. His gaze landed on Lin Feng, and his eyes were filled with curiosity. He wanted to know the relationship between Lin Feng and Holy Lord Cloud Spear. How could he know this move, Cloud's Rise? But now was not the time to ask questions. He still had one last, most important task that he had yet to complete. Step! Shun leaped up lightly. Amidst the cheers of the crowd, he leaped onto the stage. His eyes met with Lin Feng's, and he nodded with a smile. At this moment, there was no need for him to say anything because he'd already confirmed Lin Feng's identity a long time ago. He was the emperor that the heavenly secret Holy Lord had mentioned. The future human emperor. I hereby announce the end of the battle for the emperor's throne. Shun Ran turned around and scanned the crowd. At this moment, all the cheers stopped. Every saint was looking at the stage. More than 80% of the saints in the southern region had gathered for this battle. Emperor Yao's disciples, the peach blossom experts, the vermilion bird continent saints, and even Shakala had brought Shurjishin along. At this moment, the little girl's expression was filled with excitement. Every saint was here to witness this important moment. Lin Feng will be the new lord of the southern region. Shun Ran shouted loudly. Hua! Everyone was in an uproar. The saints, who had been silent for a short period of time, suddenly exploded with enthusiasm and shouted excitedly. There were no objections. Lin Feng's strength had already won over all the saints present. He was definitely qualified to sit on the throne. This time, Lin Feng's succession was much more high-profile than Shun's. It was much more agreeable. Just the scene alone was like heaven and earth. Looking at the crowd below the stage, Lin Feng smiled. Shun Ran's arrangements were brilliant. Every saint was sincerely supporting him. To ordinary people, how could they live better lives and become stronger? This was what they wanted from their superiors. But to these saints, who were already at the top, there was only one condition. Strength. Strength. They had to be strong. Strength that far exceeded their own. Using absolute strength to intimidate them was the key. It was also the biggest reason why Shun Ran had failed previously. At this moment, Lin Feng had completely understood. He let out a sigh of relief in his heart. Understanding was one thing, but doing it was another. Sitting on the throne was just the beginning. To him, a greater challenge was far from coming. Since he had promised the heavenly secret Holy Lord and Shun Ran, he had truly become the Lord of the southern region. Then he had to carry this heavy burden. This was a man's promise. There's still a long way to go. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He looked around at the saints who supported him. Most of them were unfamiliar faces, but there were also some experts that he knew, including Jin Ji, Shi Jixin, and Qian Lianhuang. They were all in the crowd today to support him. But Lin Feng's gaze landed on the remains of King Ju not far away. His eyes flashed. There were too many unanswered questions. King Ju was one of them. Why did he have that gray energy? Where did this gray energy come from? Was it the same as the 10,000 bone puppet? What was the connection between this and the kingdom of Meru? Even if it was magnified, was there someone behind King Ju who was plotting all this? No one knew. There was something fishy going on. Now that King Ju was dead, all the clues were gone. Lin Feng was deep in thought as he stared at King Ju's corpse in a daze. Suddenly feeling a strange gaze, Lin Feng raised his head and looked into the distance. It was a familiar figure behind the crowd. His expression was cold and sharp like a sword. His black cloak made him look like a ghost in the night. Sang Run. It's him? Lin Feng and Tsing Run looked at each other. They had crossed paths before. Fu! Sung Ren's black cloak fluttered and his lips curled into a cold smile. In an instant, he left. His smile seemed to be filled with hostility or provocation. Looking at the departing figure, Lin Feng didn't ask him to stay. In fact, he didn't have much of a grudge with Sung Ren. Although he wanted to kill him back then, it had been a long time. Especially now that he was the lord of the southern region, there was no need to kill him and be so petty. Lin Feng calmed himself down and looked at the crowd. At this moment, all eyes were on him. Lin Feng smiled and said slowly, "Everyone, don't worry. I, Lin Feng, promise everyone that in the future, I will do my best to take care of the entire southern region. I will not let you down. Now, I solemnly announce that the southern region is independent. There will be no changes. We don't need to rely on the 8 great alliances, nor do we need to work for the sorcerer and ancient clans. We just need to be ourselves. We need to live for ourselves." With the aftermath of the battle, Lin Feng didn't hide his views and expressed them clearly. His arrogant speech was accepted by every saint, and they had no choice but to accept it. Here, I'll first be a villain and then a gentleman. I might as well get straight to the point. If anyone doubts me, please leave the southern region. I won't stop you in the slightest. But if you stay, if anyone dares to have any objections in the future, don't blame me for being impolite. I won't be as merciful as Emperor Shan. Murderous intent shot out from his eyes. The surrounding aura seemed to have become cold and frozen. The saints felt a chill in their hearts and didn't dare to say anything. Lin Feng's strength was in front of them. His merciless killing of Palace Master Zhu Yin proved that Lin Feng was not a merciful person. If he said it, he would do it. Emperor Shun maintained his calm smile, and his eyes flashed with admiration. King Yin, King Lu, and the others also nodded. This was the real emperor, the emperor of chaos. It was over. The battle for the throne had finally come to an end. The saints were in groups of 3 to 5. Many who hadn't seen each other for a long time greeted each other, and some left in groups. Lin Feng greeted Emperor Qian Lian, Jin Ji, Shi Jixin, and the others. Then he went to Emperor Shun's side and gathered with King Yin, King Lu, Huang Lu, and the others. These people would be his team in the future. After a simple introduction, Lin Feng quickly got to know everyone, including Palace Master Zhu Yin. Lin Feng, you've been a saint for a short time, Emperor Shun said with a smile. As time passes, you'll slowly get to know all the saints. Everyone smiled. After all, there were only about 200 saints in the entire southern region. It wasn't hard to remember them. I will. Lin Feng nodded with a smile. Actually, this is better, King Yin said casually. Do what you want. There's no need to think about complicated relationships. That's right. King Lu laughed. What you said just now scared everyone. Everyone laughed. As they were talking, Lin Feng was slightly startled. The compass on his wrist rang, and his eyes lit up. You guys talk first, Lin Feng said softly, and then his figure flashed to the side. With a smile, he pressed the button. The number was very familiar and intimate. It was his mother, Jia Yaju. Lin Feng said softly, Mother, Feng. On the other end of the compass, Jia Yaju's voice was soft and pleasant. How have you been? Yes, I'm fine. Lin Feng smiled. Mother, have you gained anything? How can I be so lucky? Jia Yaju smiled and suddenly paused. Her voice suddenly became serious. Feng, listen carefully. Mother has something very important to tell you. Oh, Lin Feng's eyes burned, and his heart was in suspense. If his mother said it was something very important, it was definitely not ordinary. On the other end of the compass, a deep voice slowly sounded. The demons are here. Chapter 1242. Soon, the conversation between the mother and son ended. After pressing the button, the light on the compass dimmed. However, Lin Feng's heart could not calm down. It's here. The long-awaited day had finally arrived. It had appeared without any warning. Even though he had heard the heavenly secret saint Lord mention the 3 years' time, when he heard the news and learned that the demon army had arrived, his state of mind was completely different. Even though he had not experienced the second war of the liches and demons, he had seen it. The first time he met the heavenly secret Saint Lord, he had seen the destructive war. It was as if he had personally witnessed it. Countless demon clan cultivators rushed forward, while the human cultivators rushed forward like weeds. They played the role of a suicide squad, trying to wear down the demon clan army. In a war like this, there was no mercy at all. There was only endless killing, and more killing. It was like purgatory on earth. Blood flowed like a river, and corpses were everywhere. That scene was still deeply etched in his heart. It's finally here. Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief after a long time. He calmed down and accepted the news. And for him, the responsibility now was much greater than before, because he was now the lord of the southern region. Come, Lin Feng. We're discussing the distribution of duties. Let's see what you think. Shun smiled and waved his hand. King Yin and King Lu smiled and looked over. The unhappiness from before had long been forgotten. Since they were now a team, they naturally had to be honest. Even the usually cold Kuka's expression was not as cold as before. However, when he looked at Lin Feng, his gaze was different. It was as if he had seen through something. Similarly, Huang Lu, with her long hair fluttering in the wind, was even more observant. Did something happen? Huang Lu's eyes flickered as she asked softly. King Yin and King Lu were slightly startled. They also felt that Lin Feng's expression was slightly strange. They were slightly surprised. Looking at everyone, Lin Feng's gaze flickered. He paused his steps and thought for a while before deciding to tell everyone. This matter did not concern him alone. It concerned the entire southern region and even the entire human race. They had the right to know. Moreover, now that he was in charge of the southern region, it was necessary for him to gather his thoughts in the face of such a situation. There's something I want to tell everyone. Lin Feng's voice was firm. His dignified expression instantly caused the atmosphere to become heavy. Everyone held their breaths. Lin Feng's gaze swept across these familiar faces. He nodded fervently and said, "The demon race is here." These 4 short words caused everyone's eyes to widen and their breathing to stop. The demon clan had come? What did that mean? The third great witch-demon war was about to begin. Everyone gasped and looked at each other in dismay. They felt that the shock of this news was too unbelievable. Is the news accurate? Shun's eyes sparkled as he looked at Lin Feng. Everyone's eyes lit up and their breathing quickened. No matter what, they didn't want this to be true. However, the truth was still the truth, and it would not be changed by one's will. 100%. Absolutely true. Lin Feng's voice shattered everyone's last glimmer of hope. Everyone's face turned pale. The fear of the demon race had long been deeply ingrained in the hearts of every saint, and even in the hearts of every warrior. Lin Feng looked at the changes in everyone's expressions, but he also understood. The 2 great witch-demon wars had become legends, but it had always been widely spread and passed down from generation to generation. The devastation and violence of the demon race were deeply ingrained in people's hearts. This news was extremely shocking. He looked at Shun and nodded. The 2 already had a tacit understanding. We don't know the specific situation yet. Everyone, don't make it public for the time being. Shun pursed his lips and said seriously, "Let's go back to Taoyuan first, and then we'll think about it." Everyone looked at each other and nodded in agreement. This was the best solution for now. Northern region. Dead. Zhuo Bufan was slightly startled. The surprise in his eyes was undisguised. He was extremely shocked after hearing the news. "Yes, master." On the other side of the compass, a low voice sounded. Unfortunately, he was assassinated by Lin Feng on the challenge platform. Lin Feng again. Zhuo Bufan's eyes lit up. So, Lin Feng does indeed have the strength of a Saint King? Yes. There was no hesitation on the other side of the compass, and the voice was cold. Bottomless. He had clearly exhausted all his strength to kill King Zhu, but his aura became extremely strong as soon as he turned around. Although he is at the peak of the Saint realm, he definitely has the strength of a beginner or even an intermediate Saint King. The evaluation was quite high. Zhuo Bufan frowned and did not speak. To him, King Zhu's death was nothing. He was just a chess piece. But now the situation in the southern region was no longer under control. Most importantly, the sudden appearance of Lin Feng had completely disrupted his entire plan. He flipped through the information in his hands with an ugly expression. Rows of words clearly recorded Lin Feng's past. Zhuo Bufan's fingers tapped on the table, and his eyes changed. "Then how do you think we should deal with him?" Zhuo Bufan asked quietly. There was a sudden silence on the other side of the compass. After a long time, the voice said in a low voice, "Everyone has a weakness." His family? Zhuo Bufan's eyes sparkled coldly. The other side of the compass responded softly. Lin Feng values his family very much, especially his closest relatives. If we can capture either of his 2 wives, Lin Yuma or Qin Xianqian, they will listen to us obediently and be controlled by us. However, both of them have a certain degree of difficulty now. What do you mean? Zhuo Bufan's lips curled coldly. The other side of the compass had obviously done a lot of work. Qin Xianqian disappeared after being brought back by Lin Feng from the Yellow Crane continent. It was as if she had suddenly disappeared from the world. There has been no news of her until now. So what if it's Lin Yuma? Zhuo Bufan frowned slightly. Lin Yuma has been taken in as a disciple by the current president of the Zhuke, Chao Refiners Union, Lady Nangong. She has been practicing the art of refining in seclusion. She doesn't go out and doesn't take a step out. The other side of the compass paused for a moment. If we want to capture her, we have to break into the Zhuke, Chow Refiners Union. It will definitely cause a big commotion. The Union of Artificers was not only one of the largest forces in the entire southern region, but also one of the largest forces in the entire human territory. Even Zwabuffon was having a headache at this moment. However, he didn't dare to confront them directly. Even if he succeeded, he would have to pay a huge price. And if he failed, the consequences would be even more unpredictable. Zwabuffon pursed his lips and didn't say anything. This was a huge gamble for him. To take the gamble or not to take it. Suddenly, Zwabuffon raised his head. His eyes were sharp and awe-inspiring as he looked outside the hall. A familiar aura was rushing over at an extremely fast speed. The aura was somewhat flustered and urgent, which was very rare. We'll discuss this matter later. Continue to gather information, Zwabuffon said briefly. As soon as he finished speaking, he pressed the compass and ended the call without waiting for a reply. At this moment, a figure appeared in the hall in the blink of an eye. It was Elder Lu, whose face was ashen. He was panting, and his expression was solemn. Elder Lu, why are you so flustered? Zwabuffon asked in surprise. Reporting to the Alliance Master, something bad has happened. Elder Lu took a deep breath and calmed his mind. He looked straight at Zwabuffon with sparkling eyes. His body seemed to be trembling slightly as he said slowly, "The Witch Emperor has just sent a personal order. The demon race's army has already entered." Taoyuan. The atmosphere was solemn. Everyone gathered together and waited for Shun's final confirmation. Soon, under everyone's gaze, Shun staggered over with a solemn expression. Everyone knew that something bad had happened just by looking at his expression. Sure enough, before he opened his mouth, Shun had already nodded in response to everyone's puzzled expressions. Lin Feng's information is very accurate. He found out about it almost at the same time as the witch race and the ancient race. 5 pairs of eyes converged, filled with surprise and curiosity. Although everyone believed in Lin Feng's strength, Lin Feng was still young after all. In terms of network and connections, he was far from Shun's. However, they did not expect that he would be the first to find out about it. Everyone looked at Lin Feng. The more they looked at him, the more mysterious he seemed. However, Lin Feng dismissed it with a smile. There was no need to tell them where the information came from. There was also no need to tell others about his background. Sometimes, it was not a bad thing to keep a sense of mystery. At this moment, Shun's voice suddenly sounded. The 8 major territory alliance of the human race has already started to move. They are gathering human warriors on a large scale. I'm afraid the battle will start soon. The dust had settled. Everyone's eyes were burning. There was no longer any hope in their hearts. They had to accept this fact. Then what should we do? King Lu looked at Shun. His gaze then fell on Lin Feng. After all, he was the second senior brother. In terms of strength and EQ, King Lu was only below Shun. Although he was a fence-sitter, he was not careless at the crucial moment. He was indeed capable. I have not experienced the war of liches and demons. It is more appropriate to let Emperor Shun make the arrangements. Lin Feng nodded lightly. There was no need to show off. He was never suited to be a ruler. In the kingdom of Meru, he was only known as the Holy King in name. Moreover, he trusted Shun's experience and judgment. Don't use people you don't trust. Shun nodded. He did not decline modestly. Actually, other than Master, none of us here have experienced the war of liches and demons. I have also heard Master mention it occasionally. The war of liches and demons is a continuous war. Like all wars, there will be 2 armies confronting each other. They will slowly play, test each other, attack each other, etc. It will not end in a short period of time. Everyone nodded thoughtfully. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. It was very similar to the Beast Riot in the kingdom of Meru. It should be said that it was similar to any war. No one would directly launch an all-out attack in a situation where their strength was unknown. This was especially so when the alliance of the 3 major human races was the defending side. They had a large expanse of land and had the geographical advantage. I heard from Master that in the second war of liches and demons, the demon race, made the mistake of rushing forward. At that time, the demon emperors did not submit to anyone. They relied on their military strength that was far superior to the three major human races and wanted to make contributions. However, they did not want to be lured into the enemy's territory and defeated one by one. At that time, many demon stars fell into the ancient race's formation and were killed by the demon emperors. That battle is probably still fresh in the demon race's memory. Chapter 1243. The Sorcerer Tribe's greatest advantage is probably the existence of the Sorcerer Emperor. The Second War of the Sorcerer Tribe ended with the Demon Tribe retreating. It looked like a draw, but the Sorcerer Tribe was the real winner. The key to victory was the Sorcerer Emperor. After the last defeat, the Demon Tribe will not be so reckless. It can be seen from the fact that they have been preparing for almost 3 years to elect a commander. This battle was far more difficult to fight than the previous one. Moreover, it is said that the new commander of the Demon Tribe is very powerful. Hearing Shun's words, the crowd nodded. Lin Feng's eyes were also shining. As the saying goes, listening to a wise man is better than reading for 10 years. Shun's experience and qualifications were not comparable to any of the saints here. The Heavenly Secret Saint Lord had recommended him to be one of the most important left hand. It was not a casual recommendation. Shun is right. We don't have to panic, Lin Feng said slowly. The reason why we chose the independence of the southern region was to not be a pawn of the Sorcerer Tribe and to protect ourselves. Lin Feng looked around at the crowd. Today, there is no need to work for others. Let's look at the situation and plan before acting. Anyway, no matter if it is the Sorcerer Tribe or the Demon Tribe, they will not care about us when the situation is in a stalemate. Moreover, the southern region is in a remote place. Although we are at the front line of the war, but the more dangerous it is, the safer it is. Lin Feng's eyes were shining. It was not a fight between a sandpiper and a clam. It was a fight between a lion and a tiger. No one would care about the hedgehog beside them. Even if they could kill the hedgehog with a casual claw, they might be stabbed with a needle. Neither the lion nor the tiger would have the leisure to do something that did not bring them any benefits when the outcome was still uncertain. The southern region was very safe. Lin Feng is right. We can inform the saints about this, but keep it a secret from the public, Shun said seriously. The crowd nodded in agreement. This decision was not wrong. They did not want to cause unnecessary panic. It might be a few years if it is short, or a few decades if it is long. Shun smiled and said, "Everyone relax. During this period of time, try your best to increase your strength. Whether it is to protect yourself or to escape, there is no harm in it." Everyone's eyes lit up, and they all had their own plans. To other saints, a few years or even a few decades might not be of any use. But to the few of them, perhaps this period of time would allow them to reach a higher level, breaking through to the level of a sage king. At that time, even if the demons won the war and the humans were defeated, they would still be able to protect themselves. After all, a holy king was already at the pinnacle of the Douling world. After a heated discussion, everyone's hearts calmed down. Even Lin Feng himself was relieved and had a clear judgment of the situation. After some discussion, they all went back to their roles and appointed Huang Zhu to replace King Zhu as the new king of the continent. King Lu and King Yin were in charge of informing the rest of the saints. After all, they had more connections, especially King Lu, who was smooth and slick in dealing with people. He was not much worse than Shun. As for Shun, after informing him, he went off to do something mysteriously. Other than that, there were not many changes. What he had said before was already enough to deter them. It might not be a good thing if you were to make drastic changes, especially in such a sensitive situation. They scattered in all directions, leaving Cuckoo to face him. Their eyes met. "Brother Ko, what position do you want to take?" Lin Feng smiled and asked. He was also rather curious about this great thief who had run amok 100 years ago. Cuckoo was extremely cold and dictatorial. He was both good and evil. He did not speak much, and Ming Qi could not figure out what he was thinking. He was not like Huang Zhu, whom Ming Qi still had some understanding of. Cuckoo was rather mysterious. Since the beginning of the voting, it was hard to guess his intentions. But there was one thing that Ming Qi was sure of, and that was that he did not have any ill intentions. Deal with Palace Master Juyan. Cuckoo's voice was cold, but his words were shocking. Lin Feng's eyes instantly widened. Cuckoo's words were exactly what he was thinking. Palace Master Juyan was definitely a ticking time bomb in the southern region. No, it should be said that she could explode at any time. After all, she had passed the first round of the Battle of the Throne and was qualified to take up a position in the southern region. At the same time, she had the ability to make decisions. If Ming Qi wanted to touch her, he would definitely be criticized. Moreover, Palace Master Juyan's territory was rather large. Because of her identity, she had many friends and many saints admired her. However, if he did not touch her, it would be very troublesome. If he spoiled the whole pot of soup because of a rat's poop, he would probably regret it. Ming Qi had been thinking about how to deal with Palace Master Juyan since just now, but he did not expect Cuckoo to take the initiative to mention it. Why are you doing this? Lin Feng looked straight at Cuckoo. At this moment, he was more curious than Palace Master Juyan. This was because Cuckoo was not someone like King Lu. He was an expert who acted on his own accord. He would definitely not do this just to flatter him. You don't want to? Cuckoo's eyes were slightly cold. Lin Feng shook his head. What I mean is, why are you helping me? With a rare smile, Cuckoo said indifferently, You're mistaken. I'm not helping you. I'm just helping my disciple. After he finished speaking, he left in a carefree manner. Disciple? Lin Feng looked at Cuckoo's back as he left. His eyes were filled with confusion. He did not know what was going on. Who was Cuckoo's disciple? What was the connection between helping his disciple and helping him? Lin Feng felt as if there was a knot in his mind. He could not understand it, no matter how hard he thought about it. Suddenly, he smiled bitterly. Just as Shun said, Cuckoo was indeed a strange person. However, at least he was on Ming Qi's side. How was your chat with Cuckoo? Shun suddenly appeared and chatted cheerfully. It was very strange. Lin Feng turned his gaze away from the direction Cuckoo left and shook his head. Oh, Shun was slightly surprised. He said he was helping his disciple. Lin Feng shrugged. Is that so? Shun said with a smile. After a slight pause, he patted Lin Feng's shoulder. No matter what, it's a good thing that he's on your side. Don't think too much. When he wants to tell you, he'll naturally tell you. Come, I'll take you to a place. Lin Feng made a soft sound of surprise and looked at Shun. A place that will be of great help to you. Shun's eyes burned. Peach Garden. This was the place where Emperor Yao cultivated. It gathered the spirit energy of heaven and earth. It was rumored that the Peach Garden itself was an ancient great array. This was the best cultivation place in the entire southern region. It was not Lin Feng's first time in the Peach Garden, but he was not familiar with its interior. However, that was not important. Anyway, it was fine as long as Shun was familiar with it. From now on, you will be the master of the Peach Garden, Shun said softly with a hint of disappointment in his voice. No. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. We still don't know whether Emperor Yao is alive or dead. Shun turned around and forced a smile. I'm afraid that master is already dead. The heavenly secret Saint Lord has already hinted about this. Shun shook his head and looked at Lin Feng. He said slowly, Actually, this is a rule that master passed down long ago. In the future, whoever becomes the master of the southern region will be in charge of the Peach Garden. I see. Lin Feng nodded. I understand. It was not a problem for him to temporarily become the master of the Peach Garden. So, Shun, the place you want to take me to is a place that only the master of the southern region can enter? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Shun did not hide it and said softly, That's right. That's why I didn't take you in the last time you came. They walked through the winding bamboo forest. The scenery in front of them was strange and illusory. This is the bewildering bamboo array. Follow me closely. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he followed closely behind Shun. The surrounding scenery was illusory. This bewildering bamboo array was huge and strange. Don't underestimate this bewildering bamboo array. Shun smiled. Even a Sage King expert might not be able to pass through here. It could trap a Sage King? Lin Feng pondered and asked curiously. So, the Peach Garden is actually an ancient array? No, it's not an ancient array. Shun's answer surprised Lin Feng. This is actually a cultivation cave. Shun turned to look at Lin Feng, his eyes twinkling. But it's not an ordinary cultivation cave. I heard from my master that the master of this cave has broken through the Xian realm and become a starry sky expert. What? A cultivation cave of a starry sky expert? Lin Feng was shocked, as if he was suffocating. How shocking. Surprised, right? Shun smiled. Actually, the arrays outside are just a distraction. Many of them were built by later generations. Only the masters of the southern region know about the real cave. Even the 12 sacred masters don't know about it. Remember to keep it a secret. I know. Lin Feng's face was serious. This was no small matter. A cultivation cave left behind by a starry sky expert. If others knew about it, they would definitely fight over it. No wonder it was so secretive. Because of the existence of this cave, Emperor Yao's strength is at the top of the 12 sacred masters. Shun said slowly. Lin Feng listened and naturally understood. With such good cultivation conditions, Emperor Yao's strength was naturally extraordinary. But Emperor Yao was completely defeated by another sacred master. Shun's tone suddenly changed. Lin Feng's eyes twinkled and he asked curiously, Who? To be able to defeat Emperor Yao, his strength was definitely at the top of the human world. Shun turned to look at Lin Feng, his eyes burning. Sacred Master Cloud Spear, a mysterious sacred master among the 12 sacred masters. Lin Feng nodded thoughtfully. He had heard that other than the masters of the 9 regions, the remaining 3 sacred masters were Sacred Master Cloud Spear, Sacred Master Heavenly Secret, and Sacred Master Peach Blossom. It turned out that Sacred Master Cloud Spear was so strong. My master said that Sacred Master Cloud Spear's spear skills have surpassed the Sacred King level. Shun said softly, Second junior brother and I were still young when we saw the battle between Master and Sacred Master Cloud Spear. We were shocked. In that battle, even Master accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. Lin Feng's eyes twinkled, and he looked at Shun with confusion. He didn't know why Shun was suddenly talking about this. Wait, Sacred Master Cloud Spear? Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed as a shocking thought rose in his heart. He immediately looked at Shun in surprise. That's right. It was this spear that defeated Master. Shun's voice fell into Lin Feng's ears. He was extremely shocked. You used the last spear to kill King Ju on the challenge stage today. Shun's eyes lit up as his voice fell. Lin Feng was greatly shocked. The mysterious man who taught him spear skills was actually the legendary Sacred Master Cloud Spear. Chapter 1244. Everything came to a sudden realization. In his memories, the bearded man with a huge scabbard on his back was actually the famous Holy Master Cloud Spear. I should have guessed it. Lin Feng's heart trembled. Although he felt that he was a human expert, he wasn't sure. Moreover, he had only heard of the name Holy Master Cloud Spear, but he didn't know what he looked like or what he was good at. He thought that Cloud Spear was his name, but it seemed like it was referring to his spear and the spear moves he was good at. Cloud Rising. Lin Feng's eyes shone. This spear move was indeed very powerful. Even if he didn't use all of its power, it was already so powerful. However, he felt that this wasn't Holy Master Cloud Spear's strongest move. Bottomless. You don't know Holy Master Cloud Spear? Shun was even more surprised than Lin Feng. Even Holy Master Cloud Spear's signature move Cloud Rising was used. Shun thought that Lin Feng and Holy Master Cloud Spear had a close relationship, but he didn't expect that Lin Feng didn't know. Now we know each other. Lin Feng's eyes shone, and he was even more curious. Holy Master Cloud Spear was a powerful expert. Why would he teach him spear techniques? Shun was also surprised. What happened? Lin Feng didn't hide anything and told Shun about his encounter with Holy Master Cloud Spear. Shun was shocked. So it's like this. You received personal guidance from Holy Master Cloud Spear. Suddenly, he looked at Lin Feng as if he was looking at a monster. You said you learned Holy Master Cloud Spear's signature move Cloud Rising in 7 days? Shun was deeply shocked. If it was an ordinary spear move, Shun wouldn't be so shocked. However, this move Cloud Rising was the real deal. It was exactly the same as the move Holy Master Cloud Spear used to defeat Emperor Yao. How could he learn it in just 7 days? No. Lin Feng shook his head. I didn't learn it. He knew his own situation well. Although he had successfully used Rising Clouds, in reality, it was mostly due to luck. If he had to use it again, he would be powerless. Moreover, even the spear that killed King Ju earlier was still lacking compared to the real Cloud Rising. It's just that I was forced into a desperate situation during the battle with King Ju, so I somehow managed to use it. Looking at the confused Shun, Lin Feng explained. Shun nodded in realization. Even so, it's still very impressive. With such a spear, it will be much easier for you to comprehend it in the future. I believe that you, Lin Feng, will soon be able to grasp the essence of Clouds Rising. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Using this spear alone and teaching and learning were two completely different concepts. To him, defeating King Ju, winning the War of the Thrones, and becoming the Lord of the Southern Region were far more beneficial than using this spear personally. How powerful was the spear move Clouds Rise? There was no longer any doubt that this was enough to bridge the gap between Saint Realm and Saint King Realm. Just how shocking was the power of this spear. Furthermore, this is something unleashed by my true body. If it's used by my clone, its power will definitely increase greatly. At that time, with the strength of a peak saint, I won't need to fear ordinary saint kings. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as his heart burned. This was very important to him. His true body's suicidal consumption would not last for long. Although the vermilion bird attack would not cause him to suffer a backlash, the consumption of his soul could not be recovered in a short period of time. As everyone knew, the recovery speed of soul energy was very slow. The stronger the soul, the slower the recovery speed. After defeating the Holy Lord of the Human Demon and King Ju, his true body strength had long been overdrawn. Now, if any Saint King Realm enemy attacked him, he would probably be in trouble. After all, his clone strength was only comparable to a beginner Saint King Realm expert. Breaking through the peak Saint Realm and reaching Saint King Realm was not so easy. In comparison, comprehending Clouds Rising was much easier. Whether it was himself or as the Lord of the Southern Region, he had to be strong enough. Only then could he control his own fate. Finally, he passed through the mystifying bamboo forest. It was very big, and the array was also very mysterious. Lin Feng did not memorize the location, nor did he need to. The array was constantly changing. He was not in a hurry to master the method to leave the enchanted bamboo forest. As the Lord of the Southern Region, he now controlled the real peach blossom. These secrets would be revealed soon. In front of him, the spirit Qi was very strong. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. It was colorful and beautiful. Countless rays of light refracted and enveloped this magical world. It was hard to imagine that this was a cave abode. It was completely different from what he had imagined. In the distance, there were strange colors mixed in. He even smelled a strong flame. He looked over and saw a lotus flower that seemed to be made of flames. It was a strange existence in this colorful world, and it gave people a strange feeling. However, when he thought about how this was a starry sky expert's cultivation cave abode, he was not surprised. After all, there were too many things he did not understand. Star-stepping mansion. Lin Feng gazed into the distance. It looked like a mountain. 3 words were carved on it like a soaring dragon and roaring tiger. The artistic conception was extremely profound. Every stroke of the brush was like an iron stroke or a silver hook. It was as if it was drawn with the purest of strength, and it carried a dense flame color. It was left by that starry sky expert, Shun said softly. Master said that he was encouraging future generations to step into the starry sky level here. Therefore, It is called star-stepping. Shun's eyes were full of color. Lin Feng moved slightly. The two of them looked at the three words in a daze. Indeed, who did not want to step into the legendary supreme realm? You should be a fire element martial artist, right? Lin Feng looked at Shun and said softly, I heard Master mention it. It should be. Shun came back to his senses and shook his head with a smile. But Master did not say the details. You should know in the future. Shun pointed to the tall jade palace in front of him. His eyes were light. All the secrets should be there, but there is a barrier I can't break through. Barrier? Lin Feng looked over curiously. He could vaguely see that there was a layer of transparent light around the jade palace. He nodded his head thoughtfully, his heart clear. Let's go. I'll show you around, Shun said with a smile. Okay, Lin Feng replied. The star-stepping mansion was smaller than he had imagined. Lin Feng immediately understood and smiled. After all, this place could only accommodate one martial artist, but it was enough. Besides, although it was small, it had all the essentials. It was definitely a rare treasure for him. Yusha Mountain. Lin Feng touched the mountain he had seen before. Up close, it really looked like a mountain. It was shaped like a lion. In front of Yusha Mountain was the three words star-stepping mansion he had seen before. The back of Yusha Mountain was engraved with the array diagram of the bewildering bamboo array. It was simple but complicated. It was very difficult to understand. Lin Feng felt a headache coming. He shook his head helplessly. If it's Thousand Love Empress, she should be familiar with it, right? Lin Feng said softly. Although he had deciphered many arrays, he did not have a deep understanding of arrays. His basic knowledge was very weak. He looked at the strange array diagram. It was like a heavenly book to him. You don't understand it, do you? Shun said with a smile. Obviously, Lin Feng shrugged. I only understood the bewildering bamboo array after tens of thousands of years of study. Shun's eyes sparkled. Tens of thousands of years. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. He did not have that much time. Don't worry. You don't need to understand it. I'm just crazy about arrays. That's why I studied it. Shun smiled and said, I'll teach you a simple way in and out later. You don't need to control the bewildering bamboo array. You just need to find the right way. That's good. Lin Feng sighed in relief. If he had to spend so much time learning arrays, he might as well give up on the star-stepping mansion. After all, there was not only one way to increase one's strength. In addition to the Jade Lion Mountain, there were many star fruits planted around the Jade Palace. This kind of spiritual energy was not only suitable for cultivators to cultivate, but it was also the most suitable environment for cultivating star fruits. Star fruits, which were rare outside, could be found here. However, there were not many rare ones. Looking at the dazzling array, it was quite pleasing to the eye. The fragrance of flowers was pleasant, and the life energy was rich. In the middle, there was a mini pool that looked like a round pond. Lin Feng smiled. The righteous faction was really like a small garden. Suddenly, he was stunned. Looking at the dark green water of the pond, there seemed to be a different feeling. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Lin Feng turned to look at Shun. The latter was looking at him with a smile. Heart-nourishing pool. Shun introduced. Don't be fooled by its small size. It's big enough for you to soak in. Do you know why no one picks the star fruits here? Shun said slowly. Although these star fruits are not expensive, they're actually one with a heart-nourishing pool, giving it sufficient life energy. Shun looked at Lin Feng with a bright gaze. For you, the most useful thing in the star-stepping mansion is the heart-nourishing pool. Go in. I believe it will help you recover quickly. Shun smiled. Lin Feng smiled, feeling happy. He did not expect to get it without any effort. Previously, he was still hesitating on how to speed up the recovery process of his main body. The heart-nourishing pool was like a timely rain. Then I won't be polite. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Instantly, there were layers of shadows. Under Shun's gaze, the heavily injured main body suddenly appeared. It was still in a state of deep sleep. The clone flashed and soaked the main body in the heart-nourishing pool. Immediately, like a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples, the green pool released rich life energy, completely enveloping the main body. Whoosh! Whoosh! Bubbles kept appearing. Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly. The reaction was quite deep. The healing effect was excellent. He believed that the main body would recover quickly. Nice. Lin Feng gave Shun a thumbs up, sincerely praising him. The heart-nourishing pond of the star-stepping mansion alone was already quite impressive. The real compliments have yet to come. Shun smiled. How about it? Can we continue? Of course. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He was in an excellent mood. He looked ahead with even more curiosity, including the fire lotus-like existence. What other surprises would the star-stepping mansion give him? Chapter 1245. It was a lifelike fire lotus throne. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he slowly approached it with Shun's company. He had already noticed the existence of this exotic flower from afar. In this colorful and magnificent star-stepping mansion, the appearance of this fiery lotus flower was abnormally out of place. It was completely out of place with the surrounding environment. It was as if there was a flame in a garden. It was very special, but there must be a reason for its existence. Fire Lotus Throne, Shun introduced. He could see Lin Feng's curiosity at this moment. What a strong feeling of fire. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he approached the Fire Lotus Throne. He could see the pure flame even more clearly. This Fire Lotus Throne was made up of countless fire lotuses. From afar, it looked like a combination of flames, red like fire. However, it wasn't a real flame upon closer inspection. However, it contained more extreme fire energy than a real flame. It should be used for cultivation, Shun said softly. Should be. Lin Feng was startled. Shun smiled and slowly reached out a hand as if he wanted to enter the Fire Lotus Throne. Suddenly, a scorching flame burst out from the center of the Fire Lotus Throne, and a powerful force formed an extreme defensive force that blasted towards Shun as if it was defending its territory. Chi! Shun retracted his hand as fast as lightning. The astral source energy and the Fire Lotus Throne made contact. Oh! Lin Feng's eyes brightened as he understood what was going on. This Fire Lotus Throne seemed to hide a deep secret. Non-fire-type warriors can't enter the Fire Lotus Throne. Shun shook his head helplessly. He stared at the Fire Lotus Throne and said casually, Master stays in the Fire Lotus Throne to cultivate all year round. This thing has extraordinary effects. I believe you will understand in the future. Lin Feng nodded. Even Emperor Yao placed such importance on the Fire Lotus Throne. It was clear how useful it was. However, if he wanted to use this Fire Lotus Throne, he had to wait until his main body recovered in the heart-nourishing pool. There was still some time. Now that the war of the shamans and demons was about to start, he felt that there wasn't enough time. Lin Feng's eyes shone as he stared at the Fire Lotus Throne in a daze. Relax. Shun patted Lin Feng's shoulder and smiled. It's nothing. I just suddenly felt a burst of pressure. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he spoke frankly. It would be a lie to say that he didn't feel any pressure when he truly sat on the throne of the southern region and shouldered the fate of all the cultivators in the southern region. Every decision he made and every thought he had might decide the lives of tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of warriors. The burden on his shoulders was 1,000 times heavier than when he was in the kingdom of Meru. It would be abnormal if there wasn't any pressure. Shun looked at Lin Feng. Actually, you are a smart person. You know what you should do and which path you should take. Lin Feng smiled calmly. What he needed to do was very simple. Increase his strength. Dealing with internal affairs and diplomatic strategies had never been his forte. As the future human emperor, he didn't need to be respectful in everything. Just like in the kingdom of Meru, he had his younger brother Lin Yun, Lan, and Tianqing. He had taken care of the kingdom of Meru properly. What he needed to do was to become the pillar of the kingdom of Meru, like the only trunk of a towering tree. The other branches and leaves would naturally grow one by one. As long as the trunk didn't fall, the tree wouldn't fall. It was the same now. As long as he was strong enough to become the trunk of the southern region, the other branches and leaves of this big tree in the southern region would naturally flourish and bloom. No one knows what the future will be like. Shun put his hands behind his back, his eyes shining. But I believe that no matter how bad the situation is, even if God closes all the doors, there will always be a window for us humans. Whether that window can be opened, it depends on you, future human emperor. Future human emperor. This wasn't the first time he heard this title. Lin Feng smiled. Unknowingly, even he had accepted this mission. I'll do my best, Lin Feng said casually. The last place is here. Shun pointed forward and said slowly, the Starlight Path. Lin Feng stood beside Shun, his eyes sparkling. The Star-Stepping Mansion was a circular structure. The most mysterious Jade Palace was in the middle, the huge Yusher Mountain was on the right, and the heart-nourishing pond and the Fire Lotus platform were on the left. As for the Starlight Path, it formed a line with the Jade Palace and the mystic bamboo forest. It was like a path that formed the backbone of the entire Star-Stepping Mansion. It was a path that couldn't be described with words. It's so beautiful. Lin Feng looked forward and sighed with emotion. A path that seemed to be made of transparent glass. Starlight shone down and covered the top, forming a strange scene like nature. The surrounding light refracted and completely enveloped the Starlight Path, forming an independent world. Bit by bit, it was like a huge chessboard that contained endless mysteries. Every point where the stars fell was like a chess piece with infinite possibilities. Every place where the stars fell seemed to contain endless mysteries. It was breathtaking. Master once said that the Starlight Path in the Star-Stepping Mansion is second only to the Jade Palace, Shun said softly. This should be a cultivation place to comprehend the mysteries, right? Lin Feng understood. Shun nodded. The points where the stars fall on the Starlight Path will change every moment. The 88 constellations will reveal their mysteries on the Starlight Path. The key is whether one can grasp it. Shun shrugged. Of course, it also depends on fate. The comprehension ability of the cultivator is equally important. Lin Feng smiled. Judging from Shun's expression, it was obvious that he lacked that bit of fate. In fact, for someone like Shun, who couldn't break through to the peak of the saint level even after countless years, the possibility of a breakthrough was very small. Therefore, for him, it wasn't a big deal to lose control of the Star-Stepping Mansion. To a certain extent, Shun had already given up on the hope of becoming a Saint King. For now, he only wanted to protect the human race as much as possible. If there's a chance, I'll definitely help Shun achieve his wish, Lin Feng said softly. He admired everything Shun had done. Just like the commander during the Beast Rebellion, he had a great vision. It was a place that combined healing, cultivation, and comprehension. It was indeed a rare cultivation treasure. Although the Star-Stepping Mansion was small, it had everything. After looking around the Star-Stepping Mansion, Lin Feng's gaze fell on the 3 large words on Yusher Mountain. He was filled with emotions. He didn't expect that becoming the master of the southern region would bring him such benefits. He believed that his strength would increase tremendously if he cultivated here. Just the rich spirit chi alone was already quite impressive. Clone. It was a good time to improve the strength of his clone during this period. Although the war was about to break out, compared to the mutual deception before the war, the current situation was more advantageous for the southern region. Excluding the internal factors of the southern region, there would be a long period of stability for him to transition. This period of time was very important to him. Once he could break through the bottleneck, both his main body and clone would enter the Saint King level. Then, his future path will be much easier. How is it? Are you satisfied? Shun asked with a smile. Of course. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. It's a dream come true. I hope this place can provide you with the best cultivation environment. Shun smiled faintly. The stronger you are, the safer and more stable the southern region will be. I understand. Lin Feng nodded. Shun slowly walked toward Yusher Mountain. He turned back and said, Come, hurry up. I'll teach you how to enter and exit the bewildering bamboo formation. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The bewildering bamboo formation. The formation that protected the Star-Stepping Mansion. It looked inconspicuous, as if it was formed by a bamboo forest, but no one would have thought that it could trap a Saint King level formation. The Tao of heaven and earth is endless. Formations are formed by borrowing the power of heaven and earth, the power of constellations, and various forces of nature. Don't underestimate any formation. It is said that a true formation master in the world of stars can form a formation with a wave of his hand. Even if it's just a sandy land and a few inconspicuous trees, they can form a formation that can trap a starry sky powerhouse to death. Shun said slowly, his eyebrows dancing. Lin Feng listened carefully and was extremely serious. He did not miss a single word. The Shun in front of him was not Emperor Shun, but a formation master who focused on the Tao of formations and had studied it for hundreds of thousands of years. Although he did not admit it, whether it was by himself or by the standards of the Douling world, Shun was indeed worthy of the title master. He had immersed himself in the Tao of formations for hundreds of thousands of years. In the entire human territory, who could compare to him? Compare to Shun, thousand love, Huanghua paled in comparison. Sorry, I digressed. Shun smiled apologetically and scratched his head. Looking at this extremely rare action of Shun, Lin Feng could not help but laugh. The usually meticulous Shun became so obsessed when talking about formations. No, I have benefited a lot. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. If you don't mind, before teaching me the mystifying bamboo formation, can you continue to teach me some of the basics of formations? He was actually quite curious and interested in formations, but the Tao of formations needed time to immerse himself in it. It was not something that could be mastered in a short time. However, he also wanted to see some of the profundity of this kind of method that borrowed the power of heaven and earth. Now that he had met a formation master like Shun, it was better to listen to his words than to study for 10 years. Shun's understanding of formations, every word and sentence, was a symbol of years of immersion and wisdom. To be able to learn the basics of formations from him would definitely be of great benefit to his future. Of course I don't mind. Shun laughed heartily. He was not a stingy person and was naturally willing to share his insights. Moreover, Lin Feng was deeply in his heart. One was willing to teach, and the other was willing to learn. Soon, they were immersed in this excellent feeling. 3 days and 3 nights. Shun taught for 3 days, and Lin Feng learned for 3 days. Although what was taught was only a drop in the ocean of formations, it was already a great harvest for Lin Feng. After all, these were the most basic parts of formations, and also where the foundation was. For example, the basic spear moves of spear arts. All the complicated spear moves were derived from the basic spear moves. The more solid the foundation, the more thorough one's comprehension would be in the future, and the faster one's improvement would be. Similarly, it was not easy to take a detour. Lin Feng was slightly startled, and his eyes lit up. He had already learned a lot about the basics of formations. He naturally felt that the 7 ultimate heavenly stars formation was still lacking a lot and was not perfect. There were still many things that could be used. Although it was not easy for him to improve it, wasn't there a ready-made master in front of him? Chapter 1246. The 7 Ultimate Heavenly Star Formation. Shun's eyes lit up. Is this the formation that trapped the human demon Holy Lord that day? Shun reacted almost instantly. Having immersed himself in the Tao of formations for hundreds of thousands of years, Shun was very interested in any formation, let alone one that could trap a Saint King. Lin Feng nodded. I feel that this formation still has a lot of room for improvement. Shun smiled slightly. Come, set up the formation. It was the simplest and most direct method. Lin Feng did not hesitate. He leaped back lightly, and light flashed in his hands. 7 ultimate heavenly star beads appeared instantly. Lin Feng shouted, "Rise!" His hands moved quickly, and the 7 ultimate heavenly star beads were precisely controlled. Stellar source power bloomed. It was a familiar feeling and a familiar rhythm. Fire dragons spat out, and the power of the formation flowed. The 7 ultimate heavenly star formation was set up in the blink of an eye. In an instant, Shun was trapped within. With the 7 ultimate heavenly star beads as the source and the stellar source power as the formation's power, he controlled the entire formation's rhythm with his mind. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. However, almost in an instant, he completely lost the feeling of Shun's aura, as if he had disappeared from the formation. Lin Feng was moved. It was as if he had returned to the moment in the blood saute secret realm. The unique rhythm and resonance formed a connection. Back then, he was like Shun now, completely integrated into the formation. This feeling was very dangerous. In an instant, a beam of light appeared in front of him without any warning. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. The formation was still under control, but Shun had already appeared in front of him. They were facing each other. He did not even know when Shun had broken the formation. If it had been the battle with the human demon Holy Lord on the challenge platform, he would have died a long time ago. Whoosh! The 7 ultimate heavenly star beads dimmed and retracted. As expected of a formation grandmaster, Lin Feng was full of admiration. The 7 ultimate heavenly star formation was completely broken. No, Shun shook his head and said, I wasn't trying to break the formation just now. I was just testing it. After pondering for a moment, Shun looked at Lin Feng and said slowly, This formation shouldn't be complete, right? Lin Feng was slightly taken aback. Not completely? The setup of this formation is very clever. Shun's eyes were clear and bright as he said slowly, This point seems to be the way out. Warriors who have just seen this array often think that they have found the point to break the array. But in fact, it's not really a way to break the array, but a trap. A trap? Lin Feng couldn't react in time. Frowning slightly, he thought about it carefully and instantly understood. I almost forgot. The formation of the Blood Boil Mystic Realm is divided into stages. I only experienced the first stage last time, but there is still the existence of the second stage after that. The second stage that even Saint Kings are deeply afraid of. Suddenly, Lin Feng seemed to see a bright light in front of him. Now, he was no longer as ignorant as he used to be. The point that Shun mentioned was the node, which was the key to the transformation from the first stage to the second stage. In other words, the 7 ultimate heavenly star formation that he had previously cultivated was only half. Thank you, Shun. Lin Feng was overjoyed. This discovery was very important to him. Just like cultivation techniques, there was a deeper level of cultivation techniques that could undoubtedly increase one's strength. You're welcome. Shun smiled calmly. Although this formation is not as complicated as the bewitching bamboo formation that borrows the power of heaven and earth, it is a very good combination of the formation core, and the formation core. Shun's eyes lit up as he looked at Lin Feng. If you can complete the remaining half, the power of this formation will be immeasurable. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Indeed, the key to this formation was the astral origin energy. For example, in the battle with the Holy Lord of the human demon, even if he was weaker than him, as long as he didn't exhaust his astral origin energy, he wouldn't be able to forcibly break the formation. This was a very important point. Not all experts knew about formations. Moreover, according to Shun, it was very easy to fall into a trap when one first saw this formation. They thought that they had found the point to break the formation, but in fact, they would trigger the second stage of the formation, which was even stronger. However, first, he had to perfect the second stage of the formation. Otherwise, it would be like what Shun had done just now. It was clearly the point of the second stage, but it became a huge flaw that was easily broken. He had already obtained a good opportunity before learning the bewitching bamboo formation. Lin Feng felt rather comfortable. Compared to perfecting the formation, the details were much more important. The most important thing was to learn the foundation of the formation. He remembered Shun's teachings for the past 3 days and 3 nights. His foundation in the formation was rather firm. Now, let's briefly explain the bewitching bamboo formation, said Shun with a smile. There seemed to be a little urgency in his smile. All right, Lin Feng nodded. He looked at Shun and knew that he must be anxious. After all, 3 days and 3 nights had passed since the short lesson. Normally, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, at this moment, the demon army had entered. Although it shouldn't affect the southern region much, it was better to be safe than sorry. Furthermore, he was worried about the war. Shun definitely wanted to know the latest situation. There was no need to waste time. He went straight to the point. The bewitching bamboo formation is completely different from the 7 ultimate heavenly star formation. One is the type that borrows the power of heaven and earth, while the other is the type that uses the formation itself to unleash its power. Each has its advantages and disadvantages, and each has its uses. Lin Feng listened carefully. At this point, he already had some understanding of the formation. His 7 ultimate heavenly star formation was actually the bloodthirsty mystic realms formation. It used the strength of the formation's power. It was like a martial artist who had immense strength and a strong physique. They could unleash the most ferocious and powerful combat strength. As for the bewitching bamboo formation, it was like a martial artist who was good at techniques. Relatively speaking, in terms of formation knowledge, setting up, and learning, the 7 ultimate heavenly star formation was much simpler. However, it was also much more restricted. After all, just like a martial artist, one's aptitude was innate. The power of the bloodthirsty mystic realms formation wouldn't fall from the sky. The bewitching bamboo formation was much more complicated. However, if one could truly comprehend the technique and the profundity of the formation, they wouldn't need anything else. Just a bamboo force alone could set up a huge formation. Both had their advantages and disadvantages. It was hard to say which one was stronger. However, it was difficult for him to completely comprehend the bewitching bamboo formation at this stage. First, learn how to exit and enter the formation, Shun said with a smile. In the next stage, you could try to go deeper. Or if you're interested in the future, we can study it together. Of course, the prerequisite is that we have time. I understand. Lin Feng looked at Shun and smiled. Shun wanted to tell him that there was no benefit in being greedy. It was better to concentrate on comprehending the formation now. Just like cultivation, there was no need to take both paths to reach the destination. It would seem like a waste of time. However, it seemed like he had always been like this soon. Shun's explanation ended. Is it okay? Shun looked at Lin Feng. No problem. Lin Feng nodded. Compared to the foundation of the previous formation, the method to enter and exit the bewitching bamboo formation was undoubtedly much simpler. Although there was a certain amount of words, most of them could be easily completed by rote memorization. And this wasn't difficult for him. After Shun finished explaining, he immediately left, but he was already burning with anxiety. Watching Shun leave, Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry. The amount of knowledge he had absorbed these past few days was quite sufficient. He needed to digest it properly. After all, the doppelganger wasn't the main body. It didn't have the ability to remember everything. It was only a short memory. Right now, the most important thing was to completely comprehend it. It took a full 10 days. As if tasting a cup of rich tea, Lin Feng carefully pondered and comprehended Shun's words. He benefited a lot. He didn't study it further. This was a true bottomless pit. Even starry sky powerhouses might not be able to see its strongest mysteries, let alone him. The method to enter the bewitching bamboo formation was already clear in his heart. Lin Feng looked around at the star-stepping mansion. His gaze fell on the heart-nourishing pond, feeling somewhat helpless. His main body was completely in a state of hibernation. To strike while the iron is hot and completely comprehend clouds rising is difficult. To perfect the 7 ultimate heavenly star formation and cultivate the second stage is equally difficult. To refine the heaven-rank astral treasure Qi is even more powerless. Lin Feng was quite distressed. These were the 3 things he wanted to do the most right now. However, the first thing required the cooperation of his main body. After all, whether it was casting or comprehending clouds rising, it was his main body that was doing it. The doppelganger was just an independent entity. Moreover, The process of comprehension required the use of the soul and the use of his eyes in his own state. As for the second thing, he had to return to the ancient Phoenix clan. Although Yu Miao's spatial door had set up a point in the ancient Phoenix clan, his main body couldn't use it without waking up. Could it be that he had to return to the ancient southern region and slowly advance? That would be a waste of time. As for the third thing, there was no need to talk about it. Could it be that he had to use his doppelganger to refine artifacts without even the slightest flame? Oh. Lin Feng frowned, feeling a headache. The injury to his main body had a greater impact on him than he had imagined. Now, he was completely limited. Gently pursing his lips, Lin Feng sighed, helplessly and slowly nodded. He couldn't waste time. Even if it was just his doppelganger, he still had many things to do. Let's test the entrance and exit of the bewildering bamboo array. I'll also check out the situation outside. We'll talk about it later. After making up his mind, Lin Feng immediately entered the bewildering bamboo array. It was his first time truly entering. However, for Lin Feng, it wasn't difficult at all. With the guidance of a teacher like Shun, he had long been familiar with the method of entering and exiting the bewildering bamboo array. In less than half an hour, he easily left the bewildering bamboo array and returned to the paradise. Sensing that the spiritual energy had dried up a lot, Lin Feng didn't care. He muttered to himself and quickly found everyone's aura. His figure flashed past. In front. Oh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The paradise wasn't big, and it was very easy to find Shun's location. At this moment, everyone, including King Yin, King Lu, and the others, were gathered. However, the atmosphere seemed to be quite solemn. All of them frowned, but no one spoke. Just by looking at this situation, they knew that something bad was going to happen. What happened? Lin Feng's heart trembled. Chapter 1247. Everyone also sensed Lin Feng's arrival. They all looked over, and Lin Feng immediately walked over. There was no need to maintain this tense atmosphere. Lin Feng smiled calmly and broke the silence. What's wrong? Is there something you can't solve? Emperor Lin. Emperor Lin. All the saints bowed. At this moment, the news that Lin Feng had become the ruler of the southern region was confirmed. He was fully deserving of being the new emperor. Although Lin Feng was still not used to hearing this, he still smiled and nodded at everyone. It's like this. The news came that the War of the Liches and Demons officially started yesterday. Shun's eyes sparkled, and his voice was heavy. Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and his heart skipped a beat. No wonder everyone's expressions were so serious. It was because the War of the Liches and Demons had officially started. Although they knew that the Demon Clan's army had entered the mainland, they did not expect this worldwide war to start without any warning. It was shocking. Although they were like outsiders now, and the fire would not burn them for the time being, sooner or later, the fire would still burn them. No matter if the final victor was the Demon Clan or the Wizard Clan. How's the situation? Lin Feng's expression was serious, and he was slightly curious. Defeated. Shun's words were not unexpected. Lin Feng also understood. In terms of strength, the three major clans of the human race were already at a disadvantage. Moreover, everyone's ugly expressions and tense atmosphere were enough to explain everything. Damn it! King Yin clenched his fists, and his veins popped out. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Without a doubt, the human race must have suffered heavy casualties. With King Yan's fiery temper, it was obvious. Yesterday's battle left corpses everywhere. It was a tragic scene. Shun's eyes were bright, and he said in a low voice, but the ones who died were basically human warriors. Hundreds of millions of them. Shun's voice trembled slightly. The surrounding saints all had the same indignation as King Yin, and they all gritted their teeth. Goddamn sorcerer tribe. They're treating us human warriors as pawns. King Yan's eyes were bloodshot. He clenched his teeth and said, Lin Feng, you don't know. The sorcerer tribe only sent out a few dozen people symbolically. The rest were all warriors from the 8 Territory Alliance. The whole battle was one-sided. Everyone's faces were ashen. Even when he closed his eyes, he could imagine the hellish scene. Sigh. Lin Feng sighed softly. He could also imagine it. Everyone knew that the first battle was the most important battle for morale. The monster race would definitely do their best. Yet, the sorcerer tribe treated him this way. It should be a show of weakness. Shun's voice was slightly hoarse. The Sorcerer Emperor is very clear that, as the saying goes, a new broom sweeps clean. The new leader of the demon clan will definitely launch a fierce attack at the beginning. It's definitely not a wise choice to meet force with force at this moment. The best solution is to do what we're doing now. Send some unimportant food to fill the stomachs of those cold-blooded beasts. Everyone's faces turned ashen. However, everyone knew that Shun's words were correct. Compared to the Sorcerer tribe and the Ancient tribe, the human race was a dispensable chess piece. To put it bluntly, they were raised by the Sorcerer tribe slaves. All right, everyone, don't be angry anymore. This won't change anything. Lin Feng's gaze was cold, and his heart was calm. Although he was also very angry at the moment, such a situation had not existed for a day or two. It had been like this for a year or two. It had been like this since the first war of the Sorcerer tribe. The human race existed to consume the strength of the demon clan. What status did they have? They chose the path themselves. We can't interfere, Shun interrupted. Since they chose this path, they should bear the consequences. For thousands of years, the servility of the human race has been too strong. As long as the Sorcerer tribe speaks, one by one, they will volunteer to form the human alliance and try to be valued. It's too childish. That day, if they could form a line and work together to instigate the Sorcerer tribe would at most kill one to warn the others. Would they dare to start a war with the human race under the eyes of the demon clan? Why does the southern region insist on being independent and sealing the region in seclusion? Because of this, today's situation, to put it bluntly, they asked for it. Shun's voice was like a heavy stone falling to the ground. His words were crude, but reasonable. Shun is right. Everyone has to be responsible for their own choices. Lin Feng said seriously and looked around at everyone. There's nothing to feel bad about. If we only know how to feel sorry for ourselves and have unnecessary sympathy, then we will be the ones to suffer. In time, we will be the next ones to suffer. Who will sympathize with us then? All the saints looked at Lin Feng. Their expressions softened as they nodded slightly. There was a precedent. Only by becoming stronger can we truly control our own destiny. All right, everyone, calm down. Good luck. Lin Feng encouraged everyone. He and Shun looked at each other and nodded in tacit understanding. To a certain extent, the two of them had already reached a consensus. You did well. Shun smiled. I just did my best. Lin Feng smiled indifferently and looked at Shun. What do you think? Shun's gaze was light as he said slowly, from the standpoint of the human race, what the Magi did was indeed despicable. However, from the perspective of the entire war, what the Magi did was understandable. After pausing for a moment, Shun said softly, the Magi Emperor is scheming and astute. Although the demon race is unprecedentedly powerful this time, I believe that the Magi race will not admit defeat so easily. Lin Feng nodded. I think so too. After all, the Magi Emperor had experienced the second war of the Magi and demon race. He was definitely not ordinary. After experiencing such a victory, he knew the strengths and weaknesses of both sides in the entire war. He knew how to fight to increase the chances of winning the final victory. After all, a war wasn't about one or two local battles. It was about who would have the last laugh when the entire race was led by the leader. The outcome of the battle really has nothing to do with us, Shun said slowly. That's right. Lin Feng sighed softly. No matter who won, it would not benefit the southern region. It was like betting on big or small. The southern region's current bet was a draw. Only when both sides suffered would the southern region have space to survive. Of course, there was another possibility. The southern region's strength was greater than that of the Magi race or the demon race. However, was that possible? The longer the time, the better, Shun said sternly. The more chaotic the situation is, the more advantageous it is for us. Lin Feng nodded in agreement. Compared to the other saints, his thoughts were more similar to Shun's. I plan to visit the heavenly secret Saint Lord again. Shun looked at Lin Feng. I won't go. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. As he said, I'll make the best use of my time to improve my strength. Good luck. You too. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. There was no need for words. Nothing much happened in the peach blossom. Shun's departure was arranged in an orderly manner. He entrusted the matters of the peach blossom to King Yin, and King Lu was responsible for communicating with the other saints. Compared to King Yin, King Lu was more rational and had better connections. In order to make up for his previous mistakes, King Lu was very responsible. He spoke so much that his mouth was dry. As for Lin Feng, he entered the bewildering bamboo formation again and returned to the star-stepping mansion. Now, improving his strength was the most important thing. The Jade Palace. Lin Feng's eyes were burning as he looked at the center of the star-stepping mansion. In front of them, there was a palace that looked like a crystal shining brightly. According to Shun, all the secrets of the starry sky cultivator who had left the star-stepping mansion behind were in this Jade Palace. The Jade Palace was more important than anything else. It was irreplaceable. What kind of secrets are there? Lin Feng was curious. It was more precious than the Fire Lotus platform, the heart-nourishing pool, and the Starlight Path. It would be a lie to say that he was not curious. Around the Jade Palace, a transparent wall of light shone. The light refracted in all kinds of colors. It was gorgeous and colorful, pointing directly at the Jade Palace. Bang! The amethyst spear appeared in Lin Feng's hand. Holding the amethyst spear tightly, a bright luster appeared around his body. Lightning flashed, and the thunder slaughter armor appeared again. The horn on his forehead flashed with lightning, combining perfectly with the amethyst spear. Clang! The amethyst spear soared into the sky, and the power of lightning burst out. Clang! It pierced straight out. Lin Feng's eyes were deep. With the thunder slaughter armor and the power of lightning, this was the strongest state of the amethyst spear. But bang! There was a violent collision. Lin Feng seemed to have hit a wall in front of him. He groaned, and a sonorous sound instantly bounced his body back. The wall of light flashed brilliantly, and there was no feeling of damage at all. Lin Feng's heart sank, and his arm was almost numb. Such a strong defense. Lin Feng's heart trembled. He fell far behind, and his face was ugly. Although the doppelganger's spear was not as strong as Cloud Rising, it was stronger than the main body's attack. However, this wall of light was not damaged at all. If the doppelganger's body was not strong enough, the reaction force of this spear light would have been enough to make him suffer. Exhaling lightly, Lin Feng's expression became serious, and he calmed his mind. The harder it was, the more challenging it was. Again, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. His body shot out like a light arrow, and he once again exploded with power. With the thunder slaughter armor, not only did it raise the power of lightning, it also condensed a layer of defense outside his body. The reason why he was not injured by the reaction force was not only because of the doppelganger's body, but also because of the thunder slaughter armor. Bang! There was another collision. Lin Feng was like a kite with a broken string, and he was bounced back again. Again, Lin Feng did not shrink back. I don't believe it. Lin Feng's eyes burned. Again and again. Failure did not stop Lin Feng. However, he was stubborn, and he fought with this colorful wall of light. Anyway, he could not hurt the doppelganger at all. Failure was nothing, and he could just treat it as training his spear. Moreover, he could test if this defensive wall of light had any flaws or weaknesses. Just like a formation, if he did not try, he would never be able to find the true secret of the formation. If 10 times were not enough, then 100 times. If 100 times were not enough, then 1,000 times. 10,000 times. Bang, bang, bang. Trying again and again, Lin Feng was extremely persistent. Every time he attacked, he felt that he had become stronger. His eyes were bright, and he held the purple crystal spear tightly. Lin Feng felt a strong desire to fight. The purple light was dazzling. He held the purple crystal spear and moved it together. An indescribable feeling arose spontaneously, as if he was one step closer to communicating with the purple crystal spear. Spear technique realm? Lin Feng moved, and his eyes lit up. Chapter 1248. He didn't expect that his spear technique that had been dormant for so long would show signs of breakthrough. The connection in his heart was incomparably strong. It's because of cloud rising. Lin Feng held the amethyst spear again. Faintly, the feeling of the next level of spear technique was similar to the feeling when cloud rising displayed it, but it was still much weaker. This proved that the spear technique that Cloud Spear Holy Lord taught him was a level higher. But now at least he had improved by leaps and bounds. Wah! Lin Feng closed his eyes and immersed himself in it. The texture of the spear, the connection with the surrounding heaven and earth, seemed to be slowly gathering around his body. The feeling was getting deeper and deeper. Holding the amethyst spear tightly, the battle intent and power in his heart were completely stimulated. The surrounding space felt weaker and weaker. Ha! Lin Feng opened his eyes. The heaven and earth in front of him seemed to have become blurry. The amethyst spear in front of him became even denser and brighter. The purple light collided with the sky. Lin Feng fiercely took a step forward. Accompanied by the rumbling of thunder, the amethyst spear with a violent flame fell like a meteor. Lightning flashed in all directions. Pong! It was a heavy blow. The same spear, because of the different levels of the spear technique, had a different power. It was far more powerful than any of the previous spears. Zila! The light walls seemed to shatter, and patterns appeared. Lin Feng was overjoyed, but in an instant, the spreading of the patterns was cancelled out. The refraction of the surrounding light condensed into a layer, like ripples on the surface of water. But as time passed, it quickly returned to normal. Ta! Lin Feng landed at the rear and looked at the restored light wall in front of him. Not only was he not dispirited, but his eyes were also bright. He could break it. He could definitely break it. Just a little bit more. If the power was just a little bit stronger, I could destroy this light wall in one go. There's no way to repair it. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. He understood clearly. It was only because his power was not strong enough. But he had just broken through to the next level of his spear technique. He was only at the initial level. Previously, my spear technique was at the 7th level, which was the power of a saint. Now, I should have broken through to the 8th level of the spear technique. After the amethyst spear special effect, I should be at the 9th level. The true Saint King spear technique. Lin Feng was full of confidence. Although his strength had not reached the level of a Saint King, many of his powers had already reached the level of a Saint King, including the strength of his body, the power of his spear technique. Just the increase in the level of his spear technique had greatly increased the power of his attacks. He was now comparable to an ordinary Saint King. I haven't stabilized it yet. When it's completely consolidated and grasps the 8th level of the spear insertion technique, then this light wall, there will be no obstructions. Lin Fenglin's Lintiat just so happened that he could test out the power of his spear technique realm and the strength of his clone. Pong, pong, ping pong, he waved his spear again and again, colliding with it again and again. Although the light wall would recover after being broken, each attack brought him great benefits. The consolidation of his spear technique was like a small sapling slowly growing stronger and stronger, until, pong, a thunder-like spear strike. The dazzling purple light completely pierced through the light wall for the first time. Even if it was just a little bit of cold light from the tip of the spear, it was enough to pierce through the light wall. It was like a hole in a balloon. For this colorful light wall, A crack was enough to destroy the entire defense system. Crack! Crack! The light wall shattered from the center. Lin Feng was not repelled by the reaction force this time. He was able to release his strength perfectly. His previous efforts had finally paid off. Finally, it's broken. Lin Feng's lips curled into a smile. This not only meant that the defense system of the Jade Palace had shattered, but also meant that his spear technique had completely stabilized. The power of a true Saint King 8th level. Hua! Penetrating the light wall. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. It felt like a different world inside and outside. Looking outside from the inside, it was like looking at flowers in the fog. He could not see clearly at all. This place was like an array within an array. He was slightly surprised. Phew! Lin Feng took a light breath and clenched his fist. The extremely dense spirit chi could even be seen. The spirit chi outside was already dense enough, but inside, it was even better. The Jade Palace was right in front of him. Looking at it from a close distance, it was even more spectacular than looking at it from the outside. It was like a glorious palace standing tall. I wonder what's inside? Lin Feng smiled faintly as he stepped forward. The palace seemed to be inlaid with crystals, and it was extremely beautiful. When the light rays fell on the crystals, they refracted into a wall of light. Not long after he entered, the light wall recovered once again following the transformation of the Jade Palace. It was quite magical. Interesting. Lin Feng continued forward. There was no need for hesitation. The door of the palace seemed to be opening for him. But another door? Lin Feng was stunned. He stopped outside the door. This was a pure light door. The shining color was different from the light wall. It was completely transparent and almost invisible. However, it was real. Wah! He gently reached out, but was politely rejected outside the door. It was different from the light wall's reflection. It was more like a polite rejection, a kind of warning. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. He lightly snorted. The amethyst spear in his hand pierced out again. However, as if it had entered a bottomless hole, the amethyst spear pierced out without any effort. He was in big trouble. The second restriction. Lin Feng sighed helplessly. It's not a restriction of strength. If I'm not wrong, it should be a restriction of strength level. The feeling was very clear. Even though the door couldn't speak, he could still feel it. This was not the first time he came into contact with this kind of energy civilization. However, there would not be a strength certification that could stop a peak saint-level expert outside, but there was one here. However, the fundamental principles were similar. The only difference was the division of strength level. It was a failure. It was very helpless. However, this only piqued the curiosity in his heart. Not only must I be strong enough, but I must also be a Saint King level expert. This bejeweled Jade Palace is truly moving. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He did not hesitate because he would come back sooner or later. Now that he did not get it, he might get more in the future. It will be better. Shouldn't he be happy? Moreover, it's not like I didn't gain anything. Lin Feng smiled and clenched his fists. Then, he opened his hands and felt the rich and extreme power in his hands. In just a few hours, not only did he break through the long-dormant spear realm, but he also found a better place to cultivate. Cultivating here was twice the result with half the effort. He left the Jade Palace. He easily broke through the light wall. The consolidation of his spear realm was very important. He would not have any abnormalities in battle. He had completely entered the 8th level. The strength of a Saint King level expert. The main body has not awakened yet. I can't enter the Jade Palace. It's the same for the Fire Lotus platform. The Jade Lion Mountain is not very useful. There's no need to cultivate the bewildering bamboo array. Then, there's only this left. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. He looked at the deepest part of the Stepping Star Mansion. There was a resplendent path filled with stars. It was like a huge chessboard that contained a great secret. Starlight Path. In the Stepping Star Mansion, it was second only to the Jade Palace. Starlight shone. The power system of the 88 constellations seemed to be in this Starlight Path. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, he moved his amethyst spear and stepped onto the Starlight Path. Phew! Lin Feng took a light breath. He felt very strange. He seemed to have entered a whole new area. The senses around him were very strange. They were clear, blurry, and mellow. It was as if he had entered a chessboard and became a chess piece. He was in the game and could not see the world inside. It was self-contained, so magical. Lin Feng was very surprised. However, such a peculiar feeling made him even more interested instead. He closed his eyes and made the senses more intense. Lin Feng was immersed in it. In the darkness in front of him, there was a flash of light. It was as if he had entered a starry sky. It was so familiar and so natural. Starlight path. So, this is the starlight. Muttering softly, Lin Feng slowly took a step forward. It was only a small step, but the feeling was completely different. The surroundings seemed to have changed. His body became very strange. It was as if his whole body was uncomfortable. Although Lin Feng did not understand, he took another step forward. This small step completely changed the situation. It was very comfortable. It was much more comfortable than the first time he entered. In the distance, there seemed to be many stars that were shining. He could see them at a close distance. It was as if he could touch them. The starlight path seemed to have endless mysteries. He felt as if he was in a huge, starry sky. Every step was like stepping from one star to another. It was very mysterious. If I treat it as a real starry sky, then the feeling is very real. The feeling between constellations is very different. The same martial artist will have different senses towards the 88 constellations. If they're all fire constellations, the senses will naturally be stronger. If they all cultivate the Tao of war, they will naturally be more compatible. Just like the distance between people, different people will have different relationships. They may get along well, they may appear to be in harmony, but they may be divided at heart, or they may not fit in. There was an indescribable feeling in his heart. The shining starlight path made him completely immersed in it. His heart was calm. His thoughts were light, and his mind was wandering. However, at this moment, suddenly, the entire starry sky changed in an instant. A feeling of longing came from the bottom of his heart. It seemed to come from the depths of his soul. His entire body quivered. His surroundings were full of light. The stars in the sky seemed to have turned into chess pieces on the chessboard. In an instant, they moved. "Ha!" Lin Feng opened his eyes. Chapter 1249. Changes. The starlight path in front of him had completely changed. At that moment, the level of space around him was completely different, as though he had entered a real starry sky world. The surrounding starlight was no longer flickering, and what replaced it was the connection of the heart, which was the most direct spiritual connection. Wah! In front of him, 7 dazzling light dots flashed past. The same 7 main stars, but different from the Phoenix constellation. This was the constellation diagram of the Ursa major constellation. Starlight path. Lin Feng muttered softly and instantly understood. The colors of the 7 main stars in front of him instantly dimmed, and a bright constellation diagram appeared in front of him. Although the shining secondary stars were not as dazzling as the main stars, but although they were small, they were complete, and every secondary star had its own unique power. "Mystery!" Lin Feng exclaimed. The dazzling light seemed to be calling out to him. The brightness of the secondary stars far exceeded what he could sense when he was training, and under the changes of the starlight path, there was a huge change. A lot. Lin Feng was at a loss. Looking at the ocean like Starlight World, looking at the drops of secondary stars, it was too much for his eyes to take in. Mystery. Not only did it determine a saint-level martial artist's battle strength, it also contained the power of the constellation's origin, and was the key to advancing to the Saint King level, and advancing to the Starry Sky martial artist. Let's use my heart to decide. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. His heart was at peace, and all the distracting thoughts were thrown to the side. In this unique environment, the only thing left was to use his body's intuition and his heart's feelings to choose. It might not be the strongest and might not be the most suitable for him, but it would definitely be the one that he felt the most and the one that he could sense the most. To comprehend the mystery, he had to rely on his perception. But to comprehend the mystery, he had to immerse himself in it to understand, and there was no way to judge. "This is it," Lin Feng said lightly. He did not need to hesitate or think, and only needed to follow the voice in the deepest part of his heart. His consciousness entered and perfectly blended into the sea of starry sky. The moment his heart settled, his soul completely entered, and under the envelopment of the Ursa Major constellation's pure constellation power, he entered a completely foreign star domain. "This is—" Lin Feng was in an uproar. He did not feel the purest power of the Ursa Major constellation, the metal origin. It was not like the Phoenix constellation, where there was a feeling of extreme flames in his comprehension of the mysteries. At this moment, there was only the existence of the origin of power in his surroundings, as well as some other core energy of the heavens and earth that was faintly discernible. It was so familiar to him. Spatial energy, Lin Feng thought. When he completely entered this mystical world, 7 light dots seemed to appear in his mind. The refraction of the starlight caused the 7 light spots to be constantly connected. Some were 2 light spots, some were 3 light spots, and some were even more complicated, forming lines and surfaces connecting together. The constellation diagram of the Ursa Major constellation was clear and unobstructed, projected in front of his eyes. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The connection of the light dots became more and more complicated, and the clarity of the constellation diagram became more and more clear. 2 by 2, 3 by 3, 4 by 4, it was as if every chess piece on a chessboard was responding to each other. It was abnormally complicated and exquisite, as if it contained some kind of great secret. With his heart immersed, Lin Feng quickly entered the state of comprehension. Comprehension, more comprehension. There were no shortcuts on the path of cultivation. In the Stepping Star Mansion, Lin Feng was completely immersed. His main body was recovering bit by bit in the heart-nourishing pool, while his clone was continuously increasing his strength. Everything in the outside world was set aside at this moment. Lin Feng was very clear about what he needed to do now, and even more so about what he needed to do in the future. Do what he was good at, cultivate and become the pillar of the southern region. With the start of the war of the liches and demons, the Doling world had truly entered the doomsday stage. All rules were no longer effective, and only the strong could control their own fate. To protect the people around him, his loved ones, and the people he wanted to protect, he needed to be strong enough. Saint level was no longer enough. This was not a battle in the human territory, but it involved the interests of the witch race, the ancient race, the demon race, and the strongest in the entire Doling world. Only improvement. It was a never-ending improvement. The war of the liches and demons had begun. Since the war had begun, it was like 2 martial artists entering the arena. It would not end until one of them died. Just as Shun had expected, under the leadership of the demon race's trusted commander, the morale of the demon race was high. They were united and stepped into the Doling world almost without restraint, completely looking down on the defenses of the 3 human races. From the first battle, they were led by the demon king of the 2-faced lion race, Zongyong. It could be said that they were openly showing off their combat strength. Even during the second war of the liches and demons, the demon race did not send out any demon kings at the beginning. This time, the demon race was even more arrogant. In the face of the demon race's complete provocation, the Witch Emperor used the tactic of avoiding the main force and attacking the weak points, just like the second war of the liches and demons. They pretended to be weak and only sent out useless slaves, allowing the human powerhouses to be slaughtered by the demon race. They completely turned a blind eye to it. In the third battle, billions of human powerhouses were killed. However, the witch race did not move at all, as if they had completely given up. Water Curtain Cave. Shun clasped his hands behind his back and stood upright. However, his brows were deeply furrowed. He had been standing here for 10 days and 10 nights. However, there was no movement at all. Hua! The water rippled. Shun's calm eyes suddenly brightened as he looked at the whirlpool in front of the palace. A beautiful woman in a plain, white dress slowly appeared. Her face was filled with emotions. It was the great senior sister, Shui Yume. Is the Holy Lord free? Shun asked. Shui Yume calmly shook her head. Go back. Master will not see you. This, Shun revealed a difficult expression. He cupped his hands and said, Please inform Master that I have many questions to ask, Holy Lord. Shui Yume's beautiful eyes flickered. Master asked me to tell you that you don't have to come here anymore. Shun bit his lips lightly, and his expression turned ugly. He came here from far and waited for a long time. He was patient enough. However, he was still rejected. He did not understand. Previously, the heavenly secret Holy Lord was very enthusiastic and concerned about the human race. He did his best to help them. However, in the blink of an eye, he had become so distant. Could it be that the heavenly secret Holy Lord had given up? Thinking of this, Shun felt panic. He clenched his fists and his palms were sweating. Shui Yume's beautiful eyes flickered. She looked at Shun and said, Although I don't know why Master doesn't want to see you, he still cares about the safety of the human race. In the dead of night, he often looks at the starry sky alone and does divination. Shun's expression changed slightly. He sneered, Then why did the Holy Lord? I don't know. Shui Yume answered decisively. Looking at Shun's disappointed face, Shui Yume pursed her lips and said hesitantly, But why don't you think about it? If Master tells you everything, isn't it the same as him becoming the Lord of the human race? Shun was startled and his expression changed. He raised his head and looked at Shui Yume's clear eyes. He instantly understood. Those involved could not see clearly. With the heavenly secret Holy Lord's strength and prestige, he could become the Lord of the human race with just a few words. His appeal was too strong. Even if his body was injured, his prestige as a Holy Lord was enough to intimidate all the unruly people. Moreover, it wasn't just the southern region. He could even unify the other 8 regions of the human race. However, the heavenly secret Holy Lord didn't do that. Shun closed his eyes and thought about the first time he met the heavenly secret Holy Lord. He thought about the 3 brocade pouches and everything else. Shun's expression changed from serious to serious. He nodded gently. He already had the correct answer in his heart. Thank you for your reminder, Miss Shui. Shun smiled indifferently. You're welcome, Shui Yume replied softly. Shun turned and left with a satisfied answer. There was no need to ask anything else. There was no need to worry. The times had changed, and so had the situation. This was no longer the second war of the shamans and demons. The heavenly secret Holy Lord was no longer one of the 12 Holy Lords. Even the human race was no longer the same as before. Now it was a new chapter. The southern region was the new strength of the human race. Most importantly, this new strength of the human race was already there. The new human emperor. Teacher. Shui Yume clasped her hands. He's gone? The heavenly secret Holy Lord clasped his hands behind his back, lifting his head to look at the starry sky. It was a space filled with light. The rich star energy gathered. There was like a bridge between heaven and earth, connecting the water curtain cave to the next level. Yes, Shui Yume replied softly. He's a smart man. I believe he knows what to do in the future. The heavenly secret Holy Lord muttered, looking at the starry sky. He sighed as if he had made up his mind. You may call Fong Ning and Ling Long here. Yes, teacher. Without any objection, Shui Yume turned around and left. She was completely obedient and calm. As the great senior sister of the Water Curtain Cave, Shui Yume deserved the title. Who dares to compete with the Emperor's star? The heavenly secret Holy Lord looked at the starry sky. His dim eyes sparkled. One Emperor's star is enough to make the world chaotic. 2 Emperor's stars rise. No one in this world can stop them. It's already beyond the heavens' calculation. 1 light, 1 dark. 2 dazzling stars stood in the distance. They seemed to be the main melody of the starry sky. All of a sudden, this What's going on? The heavenly secret Holy Lord's face changed. He was an expert in divination. He knew everything about the heavens and the earth. Even if the sky collapsed, he wouldn't bat an eyelid. However, at this moment, the heavenly secret Holy Lord was shaken. Looking at the dazzling stars in the sky, he was terrified. On the upper left of the two emperor stars, 12 stars were dazzling, radiating light in all directions. The light far exceeded their original brightness. It was as if a warrior had overdrawn all of his strength. In the center of the 12 stars, there was an even stronger star. It greedily absorbed the dazzling light, constantly strengthening itself. There's something below. The heavenly secret Holy Lord opened his eyes wide. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.